You are about to opt in to Monerotopia, a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now.
All right.
Good morning, everybody. This is an urgent announcement, and I haven't talked to Doug about it, so if I'm not the co-host next week, you'll know why. But I figure I need to say this. If you have a cold card, MK3, MK4, MK5, or cold card Q, it's a Bitcoin-only hardware wallet, but you need to move your funds immediately. There is an ongoing attack, and 1,000 Bitcoin have already been lost to an attack. So you need to move your funds immediately. Move them to a hot wallet, move them to an exchange, move them to another hardware wallet, move them somewhere and do it immediately.
I got to go, guys. No, thankfully I don't. But yeah, that very important public service announcement. I'm sure most people know by now. It's all over X. This blew up, what, yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday and the day, just like the night before last.
All right. Yeah. Crazy. It's just more of this AI stuff, right? Kind of AI being ahead of the auditing of code as it currently stands. Obviously, people saying there are other issues with Cold Card, right? I guess the way they had it open sourced, people were saying it wasn't audited enough.
Yeah, it was.
I'm hearing a whole bunch of reasoning as to why this is something that should have been avoided.
Oh, and also, I didn't think to mention this, but if you generated your Bitcoin wallet seed on a cold card and then transferred it somewhere else to like another hardware wallet or a hot wallet, you are still vulnerable. And if you have a multi-signature setup with multiple cold cards, like a quorum, like a 2 out of 3, and 2 of them are cold cards, then you're still vulnerable as well. All cold cards. Basically, if you have a cold card, you are vulnerable.
I guess, I mean, I don't know if Body's there. If he's ready to jump in, I'm sure he's well versed on what went down. But my understanding is it had to do with the random number generation.
Yeah. So the library was using a software pseudo random number generator instead of the hardware random number generator, and so it wasn't generating.
How is that? Like, that seems like the most like basic critical part of this type of tech, right? You got to get that part correct.
So here's what happened. You know about the Foundation Passport Prime, right?
Yes.
Well, Foundation, the company, took the cold card software and forked it to make their Passport Core originally. And they took it and forked it and made some modifications to it to make the Passport Core.
Right.
And Cold Card was like, no, we don't like you doing that.
Oh, I think I did see that out there. Yeah, go ahead.
So we're going to change our software license. And when they changed their software license, they had to use a different number generating library. They had to remove all the GPL code from their system because otherwise they couldn't make it only source viewable. So what they had to do is they had to change their library. And when they changed their random number generator library, they screwed up the coding of it.
Right. So it really had, right. So it was because of their nature, they were trying to be more competitive. And I could see how people can find themselves in this situation. People that are building businesses in this area and kind of juggling open source with wanting to stay ahead of your competition. But here they made a very hasty decision and they swapped out the well-tested, purely open source number generating component for something that was, I guess, wasn't closed source, but was just source viewable. Is that correct?
Source viewable.
Okay. And what they swapped it out for was something that obviously wasn't well vetted. Lessons to be learned there. Lessons to be learned there for sure. Very scary. I mean, what's scary is it's not going to stop here, guys. There's going to be other incidents. There's going to be other things. AI is going to continue to find exploits. That's a good, this is something we've been struggling with XMR Bazaar. Thankfully, we're not dealing with these type of issues at the end of the day, because from a lose your funds standpoint, people are using their own wallets. They're transacting Monero outside, essentially, of XMR Bazaar, right? We don't support the rails for your transactions. When you transact, you're using the Monero network. But that being said, struggling with this idea of wanting to keep your code immune from these types of attacks. And one thing people are talking about is making the code less accessible too, right? So that people with AI can't get to it first. So there's people that are taking that approach. Obviously there's people that are taking the other approach, make it as open as possible and just hope that you're the first one to audit things. Obviously, I think that's ultimately the only way you can win.
Yeah, just run your code through every new model that comes out, because security through obscurity is not security.
100%. It's so crazy. I mean, I do think obviously long run things are they're gonna reach a point where they're just even more secure than they ever were. All the exploits have been found, and then even AI won't be able to find anything any further, right? Because it would be essentially perfected at that point. I guess in theory, right, things will always continue to evolve. Obviously, we have quantum that's coming out, and then the AIs will be able to figure out quantum better than anybody else. So it's going to be a continuous cat and mouse game. That is the nature of encryption. That's always been the nature of encryption. People have always been creating, encrypting things. That encryption eventually gets broken. But yeah, we are like literally in the most exciting times, for better or worse, right?
Oh, and if you are a coder, you need to be using open models, because if you're using the closed source models like GPT or Claude or whatever, they won't let you find exploits. They'll maybe hint at it, or they'll tell you I can't do that.
There's a governor on there. Yeah.
Or they'll tell you I can't do that. Whereas with like the open models like Kimi and
DeepSeek, have you messed around with that? The Kimi?
I haven't. I haven't, because it's not open source, it's open weight, and I refuse to use it. Is it
built into Nano GPT? Probably. They probably have a way of accessing it.
I think it already is, yes.
That's amazing.
But you need to be using the open models if you're a developer.
I know. I use some of the closed source ones too. I gotta like fully transition over.
I refuse to use the closed source ones at all.
Yeah. Just because you don't want to give them your data, obviously. That's your thinking.
I just don't want to support closed source.
Okay.
I don't want to give them any money whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting race. I think the open source is going to win in the AI. Currently, closed source have kind of a competitive advantage. They're the ones that are creating the best LLMs. Although we have Kimi now that has kind of proven that wrong. That's amazing that's already happening. That's why I brought up BitTensor a couple times on the show. I'm interested in that theoretically as a project. Something is going to do that. Basically, open source AI built on crypto blockchain tech. So the whole network itself is open source, and the generation of intelligence is open source. That's the way. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to lead to crazy outcomes. Obviously, people are going to be all concerned about, how that gives everybody access to this very powerful technology. Not just good people, but evil people as well.
And models like Kimi and DeepSeek aren't even fully open source. They are open weight, which is different.
Okay. So Kimi is not open source.
It is, yeah, it's open weight, but it's not open source.
And what is open weight?
Open weight means that you can see the parameters that were used and modify them, but you can't see the data it was trained on and how it was trained. Open source, you can see everything.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So the only aspect is you can't see the data it was trained on.
Correct. You can't see the data or how it was trained, like the snapshots, like the the snapshots or whatever during the training, but you can modify the weights once.
And so why have they chosen not to show that? Is it for competitive advantage? Is it?
That'd be my guess.
Yeah. Okay.
There are some very few fully open source models, but it's very, very few.
Yeah, this constant battle of balancing being competitive with being open source is interesting to watch play out. But open source is just going to eat everything.
Yeah, see, ultimately open source wins all the time. It might take a long time, but ultimately it wins. Look at iPhone versus Android. Look at these AI models. We're about equal now with the closed source models on the open source side. Look at Linux. Like, eventually open source eats your lunch.
Yeah,
you might have a competitive advantage being closed source for a long time, but eventually open source will get better than you.
Yeah, I mean, the closed source, what they manage to do better usually in all industries is making products that are more usable for the masses.
Yep, at first, definitely.
At first, right? So that's where they end up taking the lead, and then it takes time for open source to catch up.
Yep.
But like you said, it always plays out that way. So that's probably the biggest story of this week in crypto land. It is huge because it's really rattling people that did everything right. You know, they got the cold card and whatever, and keeping their keys offline on a cold card, thinking, you know, they're doing top-notch security and being responsible with their crypto, and they wake up and it's gone.
And there are people who have lost their life savings to this.
Oh, I'm sure. It's terrifying, right? I mean, like, you know, you got to these exploits can happen to wallet apps as well, right? And they've had happen to open source wallets.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's happened. So, you know, you just need to be careful. Be careful with the companies that you're using, the products that you're using. Make sure they are, when it comes to generating keys and holding crypto, make sure they are truly open source and they've been well vetted, and that the team is very active. It's not some stale technology that's not being updated, that they're using the latest AIs. And Cake is doing all these things. Cake is a leader out there. We got Seth leading the way. Obviously, Vic, you know, is the man behind Cake always, but we have Seth kind of steering the ship now in terms of making sure they are as secure as possible and they're staying ahead of the curve in terms of tech. And Seth is very well versed in open source and tech itself and crypto, obviously. So just because of, you know, his talent alone and the talent of the Cakewallet team makes them a very valuable service that you can rely on right now.
And because of, like, as bad as this is, because of this, the industry is going to get better. Like, it's very likely that now people are going to start using multi-signature more, or they're going to start using seeds with passphrases more. Right.
It's going to force. I know. The passphrase thing. I just saw Vic put out a tweet. Right. He's saying use passphrases. It's in Cakewallet.
Yep.
I got to go back and do that for my Monero wallets. I'm not using passphrases.
I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to be putting passphrases on my wallet now.
Yeah, because I just didn't like the idea of it. Right, it was like another layer of. It's a layer of security, but it's also a layer can cause issues. Right, if you somehow forget the passcode, or I don't know, as opposed to just having your seed written down.
Yeah, because before I was just storing my Monero in the bare naked seed, but now I'm going to use a passphrase.
Yeah. I don't know why I was kind of a little apprehensive about the passphrase. What was your reasoning for being apprehensive, or is it just kind of laziness?
Just laziness, honestly.
Yeah, me too. The laziness always gets you guys, and that's also one of the great things about Monero is, like, you can be pretty lazy and you get away with it. As long as you just, you know, create a private key on something like Cakewallet, right? Or the Monero GUI. You send your Monero there, you keep your key written, your seed written offline, you're really fucking good. At that point, you know, it's a matter of you not losing the seed, not somehow showing it to somebody. But you're pretty freaking good at that point. And Monero just works. It's very reliable. But yeah, I think it's getting to the point where we have to take next steps.
And what you can
start using these passphrases.
What you can do, and this is something that one of the Bitcoin people mentioned, is take and put a little bit of funds in the bare naked seed phrase, and then have your main funds in the passphrase wallet, so that and then use the bare naked seed phrase as a watch wallet, so that if the money in that bare naked seed phrase ever moves, you'll know that your seed has been compromised and that the only thing standing between you and loss of funds is the passphrase, so you'll know to move your funds.
You're saying having an extra wallet, an additional wallet that doesn't have a passphrase on it.
Yeah, so what you would do is you would generate your seed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you would put, say, 0.01 Monero into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would take that same seed and add your passphrase on top of it, which generates a whole new set of wallets. And then you would put your main money in that. And then you would use, and then if you would have that bare naked seed phrase set up as a watch wallet. If that 0.01 Monero ever moved,
that's how it works. When you add the passphrase, it generates new sub wallets, essentially.
Yes, it doesn't generate a new seed. It generates new sub wallets.
Yeah.
That passphrase acts as extra entropy.
Right. And the passphrase is what length and what?
You can make it whatever you want, so you'll want to make it strong.
Yeah, but obviously memorable. But not in an obvious way where somebody can just guess your passphrase.
Yeah, don't use your kids' names or your pets' names. Or don't use those as passphrases.
1984 tip 0.002 XMR. Thank you. Yes, XMR chats are working today. We had an issue last week. It was really just an update that needed to be made with Twitch. We were using an old key or something.
What did 1984 say?
He didn't say anything.
Oh, just tipped. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, 1984.
Yeah, very generous. And definitely does feel like we're living in 1984 right now.
It really, really does. And the thing is what is this going to do to self-custody? I mean, these people were doing everything right, supposedly, and then this crap happens. So this is going to be bad for self-custody for a while.
Yeah, like you said, it's going to turn people off, but it's also going to force more innovation in the sector.
Did you take my keys?
Yeah. It's going to force more innovation in the sector. And I don't know. I mean, you think it's going to push people to start using custodial services, like just leaving their crypto on exchanges instead of even pulling it off?
God, I hope not, but it might. I mean, it could.
For the record, using a Bitcoin Maxi, Bitcoin only hardware wallet is not doing everything right.
Well, fair enough.
I could be pretty negative here, but you shouldn't use a Bitcoin Maxi created anything ever, because if you're still a Bitcoin Maxi at this point, there's something wrong with the way you think, which means you probably aren't going to develop good, secure software stuff anyways. So like, don't be using Maxi products, guys. Like, that's an unfortunately but correct lesson that should be taken out of this as well, among many others.
How about Monero Maxi products?
Yeah, that too, guys.
But that doesn't really exist, right? That doesn't really, Cake is certainly not a Monero they're not Monero Maxis. They're tech Maxis. They're sovereign Maxis. That's who you got to follow. And yeah, Vlad was making the same point. Vlad was really going at, I guess, because he had beef with who's it? NVK. He's the one behind it.
Yeah, NVK.
There's been a lot of drama with him, right?
Yes, it has.
With Vlad or NVK, both of them.
Just with NVK, I guess I'm sure he had drama with Vlad. That's why I see Vlad just like really relentlessly kicking the man when he's down, like he is going for the jugular.
Here's the other thing. Like, I don't think you shouldn't be using a hardware wallet. Period. You should either roll some dice and use like a You know, if it's really that important to you that you think you need a hardware wallet, then roll some dice and put it on metal or put it on paper, right? Just have cold storage. Or, you know, for your quote unquote savings account for lesser amounts, just use a dedicated Graphene OS Pixel device. And it stays in the drawer most of the time. You almost never need it. You occasionally use it to top up like your daily driver cell phone. The problem with these hardware wallets is that they will never not suffer from a sort of big target on their back in terms of supply chain or some kind of any kind of attack, because their device is explicitly designed to hold your life savings. These kinds of problems are never going away. You can never design around that. And there's always too much potential for some kind of supply chain weakness. That could be a library, or that could be interdiction. It could be a malicious employee that's part of that supply chain. But using a hardware wallet, I think, is just a horrible idea. Don't do it. Like, use a paper wallet, use a dedicated Graphene OS. Like, imagine if this guy, like everyone that had used Cold Card, if they had just bought a stupid Pixel and then installed Graphene and just put their life savings there and used it for nothing else other than like a single Bitcoin wallet, they would have been fine.
Yeah, or if they had, you know, if they'd done the dice rolls and then generated their seed and then wrote it into metal with one of those titanium plates or whatever. Yeah,
that's definitely another possibility. You know, if you're really if you're really against the whole, I mean, at some point you're going to have to move that money if you're going to ever spend it and not just hang on to it and clutch it like Scrooge McDuck or something. You're going to have to put that onto some kind of hot system, right? So there's going to be a risk point there eventually. And if your cell phone is turned off and sitting in the drawer, like, it's not going to get hacked. Yeah, I got it. You know, firmware and the CIA, NSA probably maybe has some crazy thing where they can like shine some frequency at it and it'll wake up even if it's already okay, bro. If you're not Jason Bourne, right? Everyone else can just like still just use a Graphene OS device.
Yeah, I've always tried to keep it simple, but you're right. I mean, it's just a big honeypot, the whole hardware wallet ecosystem. Plus, they know who the people are that are purchasing these hardware wallets, so you're on a list somewhere.
Well, yep. if you buy it online, if you buy it at one of the conferences or whatever, you might be okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I guess there's ways to do it, but it seems like it's more sense to have a device like, you know, a smartphone, and it's used for other things. So you're not just on a list when you buy it that you're somebody that's going to go store millions of dollars of crypto on it. Not suggesting you store millions of dollars of crypto on said device. I try to keep it simple with seeds generated and kept offline. Obviously, I have seeds that are online as well because I use Monero. I don't just hoard it before the amounts that I'm hoarding. You just keep the seed offline. And then the question comes, well, was the seed generated in a way that you can trust that it was generated correctly? I guess that's where passphrases come in. And yeah, I'm going to have to take a step and add passphrases. It really is, unfortunately, just it's laziness, and not even late. It's just time, man. There's only so much time in a day. It's like things you put off, but obviously it's very important. So I guess I will take the step and add passphrases. Buddy, what do you think about passphrases? I mean, I guess it's like a no-brainer, right?
I mean, I wouldn't really add a passphrase on to the end of the seed phrase if that's what you're talking. Are you talking about that?
No, I'm talking about like the feature that Cake has where you can add a passphrase. We were talking about with shortwave.
Oh,
yeah, effectively generates new sub addresses.
Yeah, it generates a different. It is a different derivation path, so it generates different wallets than you would if it was just a bare naked seed phrase.
Yeah, I mean, effectively, that's a similar idea. I don't think that's probably necessary.
So now at that point, you have to crack the seed, right? Figure out what the person's seed was, and then even if you do that, now you have to figure out what their passphrase is. Right?
Yeah,
it is a layer. Now, does it add more complexity? Could it lead to less security?
Yeah,
it's basically. Go ahead.
People seem to be more prone to actually losing and forgetting things than they
Yeah,
are
that
to
was my
actually
concern,
interacting with
right?
something
Yeah,
crazy.
that's my concern with it.
When
But
you do
if
that,
you
it's
already have to worry about losing your seed, then what's the difference, right? If you can keep the seed safe, you should be able to keep the passphrase safe.
Yeah, it's basically a 2 of 2 multi-sig because without the seed and the password, you can't get the funds. So
Yeah.
if somebody gets the seed from you, well, then they get nothing. But if they get the seed and the passphrase, then they get all your funds. But that's still an extra hurdle they have to do.
Yeah. Guys, like and share. Let's get the word out. We got about 40 live viewers right now. Monerotopia coming at you every weekend, despite people having a lot going on in their lives. Not just me, but everybody that participates in the show. Greatly appreciate you guys, by the way.
And we are live on
Quality
PeerTube this
shortwave.
week.
Oh, sweet. Thank you, Shortwave, for making that happen. We have an XMR chat. Sound Money Maximalist tip 0.0001 XMR. I agree with Bawdy that you should generate your own entropy, but the whole point of a dedicated signing device is that you don't have to bring your secret onto your main device to spend your money. Something like a Trezor is pretty convenient for this.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand doing that, but you should still keep some small amounts on that signing device, not your life savings on that signing device. Again, because of the problems that these hardware wallets are honeypot. Also, your devices shouldn't be so horribly insecure that you can't keep a few $100 on them for just daily spending. Yeah, like, I mean, I understand the point of having that signing device, but it's just too big of a target.
When I first got into crypto and was like into Bitcoin, I was generating seeds. I forget what the website was, but it was basically just a way to make a paper wallet, and it was
Probably
And that's why you lost your Dogecoin.
No, well, that was another. That was because I saved my crypto on a web wallet. Like, rule number 1, like, do not do that. No, but I was printing out paper wallets. What was the one you mentioned, Buddy? I don't think it was that.
I said brainwallet.com, but that's probably a different one.
No, it wasn't. Something else. But it was very trusted at the time. Source. I wish I still had that Bitcoin on those wallets, obviously. Oh man. But yeah, I printed, I printed it on a printer, disconnected from the internet, right? Sparked it up, and it generated the seed phrase in the browser, even when you're disconnected from the internet, and you're able to then just print your paper wallet.
Yeah, obviously that was probably pretty insecure. I mean, who knows?
At the time, it was like one of the most secure things to do.
It's still subject to all those same like supply chain attacks. I mean, if you really, really, really want it to be perfect with your entropy, you need to flip a coin, because even dice, unless you have perfectly weighted dice that you got from Vegas or something, like even dice can have manufacturing defects that reduce their entropy.
Oh, wow.
Isn't there like casino dice that are supposedly properly weighted and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's what I said. Unless you got them from like Las Vegas, where they.
So what's the easiest way to do that? So you how do you then actually create the
flip a coin and write down 1010 for Bitcoin? It'd be 260 bits for Monero. I guess it'd be 520, but probably not.
Okay, and then how do you then generate the actual seed? Like, walk us through it. Somebody's got the dice. They got a Cakewallet, whatever.
Oh yeah, you probably need some kind of like lookup table or something. Or you could just use that as your private key. Like, just use that. Use that
like actually manually generate the private key.
Yeah, you're generating a binary number. Just by
how do you do that? Is there an easy way to do that?
I guess you would just enter.
I'm sure there's a tool somewhere. Like, I'm sure that GitHub has some kind of tool that we could follow. Like,
so nobody's actually
Claude to give you like a translator.
Have you done it? You haven't done this.
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
I guess where it says private key, you would just enter like 0101.
This should be like at the next Monerotopia. We have it at the 101 table, where they teach you how to generate your own. Just walk you through the process, and then you go home. You can do it again, right? And whatever, give them they could buy a thing of dice. Although maybe you wouldn't want to buy your dice there.
Well, you could just
this idea of teaching people like the process of how to generate your seed, right, using dice, and then actually derive a Monero private seed from it, and then whatever, stamp it on metal.
Theoretically, if I'm understanding correctly, Body was saying it would be better unless you have the casino dice to flip a coin, because you have coins in your pocket or whatever, and that would be better to do.
Yeah,
but I guess once you got all the zeros and ones or whatever and entered that into your wallet manually, which would be, oh my god, I guess the wallet itself would give you the seed words, wouldn't it?
I don't think so. No,
No?
that's not how the Monero wallet works.
Oh, okay. I thought it would actually translate those zeros and ones to
I don't know if anybody's I'm sure people have tried to like develop some UX for this to like kind of walk people through the process, or just something that explains to people.
Well, after this is going to get easier.
Yeah. I mean, but it's just crazy that it's going to come to that, right? Like that can't ultimately be the solution, that all people that are trying to live a sovereign life with crypto need to go generate their own seed. I mean, maybe that is, but that seems crazy, because that's going to create a very large barrier to entry for people to properly use crypto in a sovereign way. So I can't imagine that's where we're headed. A slightly weighted dice would only be exploitable after a tremendously large number of trials. Not practical. Yeah. Stop with the dice paranoia. Yeah,
bro.
Yeah,
100%. Like, just don't use a stupid like hardware wallet that's made by some dude who's a Bitcoin maximalist. Like, don't use projects that are one-man shows where they like hire like a guy to help them that are vibe coded or whatever. Like, I'm sure it wasn't vibe coded, but just use a project that has a large number of people on it with a lot of review, right? Use projects that have actually
that are very
have involved a lot of people, have a lot of trust, etc.
Yeah. And use a passphrase. Consider it. I would say highly consider that. I think I'm going to move in that direction.
Yeah, because if you were using a cold card and you had a passphrase on it, you're safer than if you had not. You might still have problems, but you would have had more time.
Yeah. Even if it's a shitty passphrase, it's better than no passphrase, right? But I'm not saying just use your first name, but if you use some sentence, at that point it's better than no passphrase.
Yeah, it's better than the bare naked seed.
Yeah. So I guess it then becomes because then how easy is it to then like kind of brute force a passphrase? Like how do you keep testing it? Like if you're able to crack somebody's seed, you have their seed, and now you need to get through the passphrase layer. How do you effectively like repeatedly test that?
Well, you have to know that seed has a passphrase on it first of all.
Okay. And
then once you find that out, then you have to like use one of those password guessing programs that sits there and GPU crunches all the possible passwords for it.
Right, but is there a way to do it in a way where you can generate 10 million passwords at once, or is it a slow process?
GPUs.
No, but the actual process of then like testing the passphrase to see if that was the right one. Was that the right one? Was that the right one? Right?
I'm sure you can parallelize the operation. Just you need more compute to do it.
Yeah. It takes a lot more compute, but I think you can do it. That's why you need a good strong passphrase.
And is it fair to say Monero is arguably a little bit more secure than what we're seeing what's happening, because you can't see the crypto on the wallets, right? You can't see the blockchain. You can't see that there's $100 million worth of Bitcoin sitting at some address, or that doesn't really come into play of what type of attack we're seeing here.
I think so, actually, because of the fact that you have to scan the entire blockchain to see if there's actually anything on there.
Right.
So I think that would make this. So I think this attack would still be doable on Monero, but I think it would be a lot slower.
Okay.
Because you'd have to scan. Because instead of just getting an address and being like, "Hey, does this have anything on it?" with one of those block explorers. You'd have to literally scan all 3 million blocks, or what, 3.6 million blocks or 3.7 million blocks one at a time to see if there's anything there. Right. So you'd have to do that millions and millions of times.
Okay.
So while it would be slower, I think it would still be doable, but it would be a lot more difficult.
Got another XMR chat, reasonable rando tip 0.001 XMR path for normies. As long as you have up to a few months living expenses in crypto, don't worry about it. But once you have actual wealth, maybe it's worth spending half a weekend rolling your own entropy and learning a little bit more about the tech. Yeah, for sure. Although I don't think I'm going to be rolling my own entropy. I'll probably be using a passphrase.
I'm thinking a passphrase is my next step. I might roll my own entropy in the future, but I think for now I'm just going to go from bare naked seed up to seed plus passphrase, and then maybe in the future roll my own entropy. So at least it'll be an upgrade.
Crazy times, guys. Never a dull moment, even in the bear markets. Never a dull moment.
Oh heck no.
All right, we could have Body do price. No special guests today. I just haven't had time, guys. I have somebody that's been doing a great job helping us out with guests in general. He's been finding me Monero talk guests. But yeah, weren't able to grab anybody this week. I've been very busy behind the scenes with family stuff and also Monero stuff. I had a big day yesterday. I guess I'll get into it in the news. I'll talk about it. I've been talking about this bit license, right? Trying to get rid of the bit license in New York. I made some major headway yesterday. So I can bring that up in the news. I'll try to bring up all my news links when Body is doing price. And yeah, we'll just move it along. If anybody wants to be this...
The Monerotopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, privacy-first multi-chain swap aggregator designed for seamless instant swaps. Exchange XMR instantly with the fully non-custodial, KYC-free experience and secure execution across hundreds of blockchains.
We'll stick to the snaps, Justice, for moving ahead. I was gonna say, if anybody wants to be the special guest, jump up on stage. We'll put the StreamYard guest link in the stream. But yeah, without further ado, Body, take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. Time for the price report. See if we can get anything, find you any good trades here. I don't know. There is a shift actually that happened. So I do think there's going to be an opportunity coming up here to make some trades. We'll get into that. Nice. It's part of the macro, but people complain when I talk about macro first, even though it's probably better. So we talk about, well, Monero first. It is Monerotopia. We've had some continued, should we call it recovery? I guess we can call it recovery from about 300, currently sitting at about 358. So what are we looking at? 20% up? Yeah, about 20%. But not really much happened this past week. If we go back 7 days, we're actually slightly down. No big deal. So this chart is a little bit kind of meandering, sort of at a center point. But it does have a notably positive feel to it. So I still kind of feel like, I would like Moneros to have gotten at least to like that 377 level here. It seems to have stopped just a little bit short. Okay, maybe we're still kind of on our way there. We've got upsloping lower standard deviation lines, right? So that's blue. Let's see, we got a comment. RemSee says that purple orange area on XMR chart looks like it wants to go there. I guess you mean this purple orange down here at 330? I don't see any other purple oranges. Go back to the daily. Oh, yeah, down here. It does seem like there's a reasonable plausibility at some point that Monero will actually take a little pullback, probably somewhere into these lower standard deviation levels. The purple is actually an upper kind of, I wouldn't call it boundary, but it's like an upper standard deviation. It's technically not a standard deviation. It's like a derivative of that. We won't talk about that right now. Anyways, the chart does feel still notably positive. I don't think we're probably not quite done with positive movement here. That doesn't mean that we couldn't hypothetically drop off some next week and then at some point go higher. Like we talked about with the regression analysis last week, the best that we can say for statistics and Bitcoin is that it has already touched the neighborhood of the lower boundary. I put less and less weight on that analysis as we go forward because that analysis is going to break down at some point. But thus far, it has been a pretty good target for when to get back in the market. unless Bitcoin just wants to fall off or something, just wants to die. We'll get to Bitcoin in a second. Anyways, Monero chart still looking short-term, medium, maybe not short-term, but at least medium-term. This thing looks like it's still bullish. So that's nice. That's good. Can get a few more gains. Maybe we can get back to 400. The XMR BTC chart is also continuing to be bullish, had a little pullback, and then has continued up. This is mostly because Bitcoin actually fell off this past week. But overall, again, this chart has been forever to me looking nice, maybe not nice, but looking mildly bullish. It has continued to be mildly bullish. We were hoping for some period of time that we would actually get like a truly bullish scenario to get up to that 0.07% of Bitcoin's market cap. Still hasn't happened. But it is interesting that with the hack, the alleged hack that happened, that pushed the ratio up, that pushed Monero to 800, that we're actually still, in terms of the ratio, we're not really that far off of that point, right? We're say 25 to 40% off of those highs, and that's happened really over the course of the past year, almost half year, I should say, where we continue going up slightly positive. I think again this chart should continue being mildly bullish. At some point, Bitcoin is going to try to go for some new launch, right? They're going to go for a new push high, or they're going to go for a new bull market, whatever. And then this chart will do things that piss us off, and that's just the cycle of how things work here. We're in a bear market, and they, Monero does better in bear markets, and then it does worse during bull markets. But I do think that Bitcoin's bull potential is massively attenuated now. I don't think we're really looking at anything. We're not looking at exciting times for Bitcoin price ahead of us, guys. Sorry. Bitcoin has already had the massive, these massive runs. It's already had the most of what it's going to get. You're going to have to look for other places to get your mad gains because Bitcoin ain't going to be it. All right, let's see, XMR versus gold. We've talked about this. I don't expect this chart to actually do a whole lot, probably for years, to be honest. Although gold might arguably be in a very long-term bear market here now. And it is possible that Monero could be going for a bull market. So maybe Monero could actually, at some point here over the next, say, 1 to 3 years, find its way to the top of this chart, right? Find its way up. I think fundamentally that makes sense, but just from a TA perspective, I wouldn't look at this chart and say that you should expect it to do anything other than continue chopping sideways, which you could actually use for range trading, right? You could sell Monero into gold when you're up here, and then sell gold for Monero when you're down here. And you could even do that in levels, right? You could do that where you buy and you sell at certain levels in certain directions. And realistically, for the past 2 to 3 years, that really would have been your play, right? That would have yielded you a significant amount of gains. All right, so that's Monero versus gold. Let's go to the privacy shitcoins. Xano, wow, Xano, I guess it came back some. Yeah, I don't like this Xano chart, guys. Like the way that these oscillations happen, the way that these, I would say take the elevator up and the stairs down, but they're taking the elevator in every direction. Not a huge fan of the Xano chart, to be honest. It has this kind of reminiscence of XRP and also of Pirate Chain, where you just get these crazy oscillations, these movements, these big movements out of nowhere. I just don't believe that this chart is all that real. It's hard for me to believe that anyone is actually truly using Xano. Okay, whatever. Firo, also nothing happening there. Oh, wow, Tari actually did a crazy big spike. Oh, no, it didn't. Yep, here we go. So Tari we talked about this last week, actually. We said, hey, we're not sure if this is a real spike. Well, it's round tripping now, right? So here we thought maybe you could get some more gains, but nope, it did a spike, and now it's falling off again. So at this point, maybe this liquidity is so low, this is just somebody buying, smashing the buy button. I don't know. I honestly don't care, but this just, guys, this chart just looks like it's going to die forever. This is just a death forever chart. I guess maybe it's because Fluffy is honest enough not to pay off the exchanges. Yeah, but somehow I don't think that's it either. I don't know what happened here. It doesn't matter. We beat that dead horse. That horse is this horse is deader than Cubic. Tari is dead worse than Cubic is. Jeez. That's saying something. All right, Zcash seems to just be oscillating here. It also has a fairly positive chart. You've got sort of this nice upsloping on all of the standard deviation bands, and it's currently looks like we're in a sort of falling volatility zone. But at some point, this volatility could break towards the upside, and you could end up just kind of doing more of this. So that'll probably be dependent on the broader market recovery. I don't think Zcash has enough steam or possibility to do anything now. I do find it disgusting how they had an inflation bug, an actual inflation bug, and they still haven't turnstiled all the coins. And this is all that happened. Like, the chart was rescued. This just looks like, I don't know, this just looks like a cascading liquidation wick that you could see on any crypto chart. And then they're like basically recovered to their previous point. That's obviously, again, that's just fakery. Like, that's just because probably they have they can set and prop up charts like this, and Zcash is going to be their attempt at distracting people out of Monero, because if they can distract people into Zcash and not buying Monero, right, then that hurts Monero, hurts our hash rate, etc. So yeah, have nothing but bad things to say about Zcash. So I guess I shouldn't say anything at all. No, this is the price report. I'm going to tell you when things are retarded. Okay, so here's Bitcoin. You can see that yeah, Bitcoin basically got, what are we on, the 4 hour? Let's go to the daily. Just should be nicer, cleaner. No, I guess we'll just look at the daily really quick so you can get a quick feel for where we're at here. We're looking at the full bear market from the top to the bottom. This green line is, yeah, I mean, effectively that's the touch point. In terms of the broader bear market, this right here, this orange band, that's kind of like the bear market lower standard deviation band structure. Is this guy right here? So yeah, like Bitcoin hasn't even really made it to the challenge point of like, hey, can we actually stop this bear market yet? Are we actually done? So it's still like the waters still look choppy out there, guys. Like, things still look rough for Bitcoin. And if we're going by that 3-year cycle, 3-year cycle, what the fuck? 4-year cycle. If we're going by the 4-year cycle, then we're still looking at like, I don't know, September, October, for the final ultimate absolute low. So hypothetically, like, I would actually love to see this green line breakdown. I would love to see the lower boundary breakdown. I'm not a huge fan of Bitcoin anymore, guys. Like, everything about it's just like annoying. It's stupid. It's distracting the entire ecosystem from better projects like Monero. And so if Bitcoin's price goes down, I really don't care, especially because Monero seems to have found and established its own floor, its own price mechanisms, its own fundamentals, its own work. Monero's, like, I wouldn't call the Monero price independent of Bitcoin, but in a lot of ways, I'm not worried if Bitcoin crashes 10,000, or crashes, I don't know, let's just say 50% from here. If Bitcoin goes back to 20K, I'm not worried about Monero going to $150. Monero will probably find a bottom at maybe 300, 250. So anyways, yeah, back to the price then. What happened is on the short-term bands, right, on the short-term band structures, basically price got back to some place where it said, hey, maybe we can start to move out. And maybe it can, right? Maybe it just needs to establish a little bit of a floor and then start moving up again. That's possible. It's also possible that with these lines still downsloping, so the standard deviation is still downsloping, it is possible that Bitcoin could take like one more, wick down or something like that. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I do feel like there's just a broad general weakness in terms of Bitcoin, in terms of the culture and the population, the people that buy it. Like, it's hard for me to like. I just don't see the kind of strength, the exuberance. The last bull market was so weak, such crap. Like, it could very plausibly be the case that Bitcoin has another major downturn here. We might not have seen the bottom, but realistically, like, this was the place to buy, right? That's where the line is. You start DCAing as you get close to that line. We talked about it. We said, hey, it's responsible to, if you sold, if you got cash, if you're looking for a big buy point, right? This was it. This was your big buy point. But we're still not that far above that. Like, whereas price is currently 9% above that point. So, I mean, you're really, even now, you're still getting in at a pretty good price if you didn't buy this one down here. So, I would probably, like, if I was playing this, I would probably look for 61, maybe 60,000, try and get in at that area again. Look for another bounce. But I do think that this green line is going to break down at some point. Is that this cycle? I don't know. Maybe it's the next cycle, but I do think it's going to break down. Nothing really that interesting with the Z-scores. Monero's kind of riding on top here. Everything else is sort of just in this general pack, mostly because everything is pushing sideways. So everything is sort of returning to the 0 point, which is what happens with Z-scores over time. Look them up on YouTube if you don't know what a Z-score is and you want to know. Let's look at total 2. I haven't looked at this one, actually. Yeah, this doesn't look great. Total 2 does not look like a great chart right now. In fact, total 2 looks like the kind of chart that's about to fall off here to another 30%. Honestly, guys, like this is not a great looking chart. Could the moving average here, which is these white bands right now, total 2 is sitting here in these white bands. Could these white bands be the support, the place where things stop dropping? I guess it could be, but I wouldn't count on that. God, that looks terrible. That looks awful, awful. Am I saying things are going to drop? Am I saying ETH and all of the other altcoins are going to drop by another 30%? Man, that would be quite the downturn. Nothing has to obey my statistical levels, though. So maybe things could hold on right there. I don't know. That is a bit of a dichotomy because to me, the Bitcoin daily chart doesn't look that terrible. Let's take another look at it. Yeah, the Bitcoin daily chart doesn't look that terrible. I mean, I think even if I'm like, even in a bad scenario, unless like, Bitcoin just gets hacked or something like terrible befalls the whole chain, we're looking at maybe like 14% down. Like maybe Bitcoin would go 14% down before like finding a bottom, if we're being pessimistic here. So, and this one down here at 25, like 50% down. I don't think that's going to be the case. That shouldn't be the case. That's never been the case before. Anyways, but yeah, total 2 is looking notably worse in terms of its structure here than Bitcoin is. So I don't know. I guess I'd be careful with the altcoins. That said, let's take a look at the dominance. And this chart again, dominance just looks like it's range bound here. So I don't know. That's kind of a conflicting signal there. I'm not really sure what to make of that. Probably total 2 can just stop and reverse on a dime and just won't obey any statistical level here. You know what? Maybe we can resolve this by looking at total. Let's look at total. Yeah, okay. That's a pretty big headline spot to look for. So if we're looking at total, we could look at this about 13% down at the moving average. Hypothetically, that could actually be a spot to look for. About 1.85 trillion market cap for the total crypto market cap. Yeah, it is interesting how there is kind of this incongruence there. Let's look at Tau. Doug mentioned Tau, and I guess we're talking about AI earlier, so why not? Tau not looking great. Tau has actually been falling off repeatedly. I haven't really tried to draw any lines. This chart goes further back, but you kind of had to like get on their website and buy Tau from like a person on their website when they were launching. Obviously, that was the maximum opportunity. Usually that kind of stuff is the maximum risk. These lines are not really drawn with any precision. So, but you can see like the highs, right? You're getting lower highs overall. So that's why that down sloping line is there. Kind of in this downward wedge, kind of a downward triangle. I guess this chart should turn around at some point, maybe when the rest of crypto turns around. Maybe with Kimmy having open weights. I don't know if they'll add that to Tau. I haven't really kept up with BitTensor for quite a long time. This is the kind of chart that I do believe should at some point have a rebound towards the upside, but really that's also only like, that's a 1.5 or a 2.5x, maybe a 3x at this point. So it's kind of like, I guess you could have traded these fall offs here. There was all kinds of opportunity to trade the wicks down here if you were able to catch them. I'm not sure about the price on this chart, to be honest, guys. I'm not seeing, especially amidst the broader crypto picture here, I'm not necessarily saying that BitTensor is necessarily a good buy. You could probably buy a little bit and just hang on to it for a while. This chart will probably at some point be able to make it back towards the top side, but yeah, so we got RemSee saying Kimmy's not the best open model. GLM 5.2 is better. I stopped using those open models a long time ago because they always gave me worse outputs for actual like real coding necessity and like real architectural design. They just didn't have the knowledge, and they just couldn't produce as good results for me. Maybe they've gotten better. It's been about a year since I've played with the open models, but I just got sick of having responses that were just garbage or half garbage when I could get a good response from Claude.
I would say
all right. Anyways,
I would say try it again.
Yeah, maybe I'll try it again. I don't know. We'll see. I honestly, maybe it's better if I just write pseudocode and then tell it to clean it up. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at the macro here. All right, so we got sorry about that. We got oil, and oil, like we said, kind of got back into this triangle thing that we had said, hey, maybe we're done with that. But we also said, when this thing got started back in March, we said just expect them to jack this war around every which direction. It's on, it's off, it's peace, it's war, it's ceasefire. Oh, somebody violated the ceasefire, and that's what they've done to us. That's what they've done to the market. That's what they've done to oil. It does look like the market is on the sort of side of like being doubtful and disbelieving them, because this was the market being like, oh my God, look, like there's the war. And then they're like, yeah, but maybe Trump is just kind of like doing stupid shit. And so the market kind of called his bluff, because oil really should have gone much higher if we really believed that this was a larger conflagration, and that the straits were going to be closed forever. And so yeah, okay, you've got this reaction balance, oil higher because they started fighting again, but it's even now it's like barely holding that triangle. So I don't know, maybe they just need a higher price of oil. Maybe they were concerned that that this 67 wasn't going to hold here, so they had to sort of like restart wars again. They need a Goldilocks price for oil. The military industrial complex, the United States government, they need a Goldilocks price for oil. They really do. If it's too low, then all of their oil, they run into problems, right? The petrodollar runs into problems when oil starts dropping too low. That was our alpha actually in the mini crash last year. We were able to see that because oil dropped out of trend just before the crash happened. So, and I don't understand completely, fully 100% these mechanisms. Obviously, this kind of stuff could just have, you could probably write papers about the way that these things are intricately related. Nevertheless, just from watching how markets unfold, if oil is too high, the economy suffers, right? There's problems. If oil is too low, the stock market suffers. So they really do want something like 60 to 90, I guess, is probably their target range there. All right. Anyways, here's the thing that I wanted to point out about maybe we have some opportunity coming up, because the dollar index fell off pretty steeply. This was looking like a fairly bullish chart, and then as of this week, the dollar index just fell. So that is a bit odd. The way this chart was set up should have seen the dollar index at least staying in this general area around the 101 area and sort of meandering on to maybe like the 103 area. That is what you should have expected from this chart, and it's not what happened. Maybe this can put a floor in and then it can start moving up again. But if this thing continues falling off tomorrow and sort of gets back into this zone, I do ask myself, what is that a signal of? Why are people leaving dollars, right? Why is the dollar index dropping, and where is that money going? Because nothing big happened with oil.
What's it at now?
What?
What's the dollar index at now?
It's at 99.8.
Thanks.
So I ask myself, where did that money go, right? Where's people are exiting dollars and going somewhere. And it doesn't look like it happened into oil. If anything, oil pulled back a little bit, and oil kind of already has this like choppy, steady state. So doesn't seem like oil. We can look at gold here. Didn't go into gold, right? Gold is still kind of like treading here at the bottom of its range. So it didn't go into gold. Or maybe it did, right? That's actually kind of the question we're setting up here. It didn't apparently go into gold. We haven't really seen a big rebound for the stock market. Like, okay, there's this tiny little rebound but not really. Like, I mean, the stock market closed 1% higher. Okay, it's nice to close 1% higher, but that was also after falling off. Particularly the Nasdaq fell off about 11.5%. So a little bit of recovery from actually. Oh damn. Okay, so the Nasdaq continued to fall this past week. Well, regardless, the Nasdaq ultimately closed about flat. So the money didn't apparently go into the Nasdaq. What about commodities, right? Commodities look flat overall. Like, let's go to the daily on commodities. We can go for last Friday. Yeah, so if anything, commodities fell off a little bit this week. So where did that money go? Let's check bonds. Where are the bonds? There they are. Yeah, bonds did not get more valuable either, right? Nothing really happened with the bond market, just sort of kind of flat, maybe slightly up. So what I'm postulating here is that if the dollar index fell off here and it continues in this zone next week, like it doesn't just rebound next week and it stays either flat or down, that means that money is moving somewhere, probably, right? That's a sign that money has moved somewhere. So the question is where. So in my mind, that sounds like one of these risk assets is likely to maybe there's a rebuy happening here. Maybe it's gold, right? Is it possible? Could it be gold? We're seeing this sort of like falling volatility. This has been happening now for a couple months, where gold is maybe finding a bottom here, plausibly finding this bottom. This also is the kind of chart that could that could break down ultimately, right? You could do this and then actually fall off. Maybe, but maybe there's money being moved into gold here quietly, and when big money moves like that, they don't want to disturb the price, so they're careful with the way that they buy. They don't just smash the market buy button. It's possible that gold is actually that we're seeing a move from dollars into gold, and maybe we'll get a nice little rebound here towards the upside. That would be beautiful. That would be really nice. I would actually probably maybe take that opportunity to try and to buy some property, potentially buy a house maybe or something. Who knows? I do have a friend that's actually looking to sell their metals to buy some property. So hopefully, for their sake, I would like to see that gold chart move towards the upside. What's our potential there? About 22%. Yeah, I mean that's not bad. So I do think that there's a reasonable possibility that some risk asset or gold is about to take off here. Okay, I think let's see. We got a couple XMR chats here. RemSee tipped 0.5 million. He says, "Body, do you ever look at the VIX?" I used to. That's maybe not the worst inclusion. Maybe we could add the VIX in here. I need more space. I need a place to. You know what? We have total here. Do we care about total? Yes, kind of. Let's look at the VIX. Nothing happening with the VIX. The problem that I think I stopped. I used to look at it, but I think the reason I stopped looking at it is that by the time that it's telling you that it's giving you a signal, it's kind of like already too late. Like the VIX is it's not a leading indicator. If anything, it's a lagging indicator, but it's more like probably just a real-time indicator. So yeah, I don't really look at the VIX too much, if at all, really. Okay, save that. And then we have D-Martian tip 10 Millenaro. That's a nice tip. Thanks, bro. Pray tell, is it possible to assess how much XMR price is tied to BTC versus XMR price tied market factors that also happen to affect Bitcoin? How much of the reason for XMR price following BTC is due to XMR BTC trading pair predominance? I think very little. I think that the XMR price is actually like the floor that I talk about that's set. That floor was set in the process of exchanges delisting, fractionally reserving, then ultimately delisting, and attempting to suppress the Monero price as much as they possibly can, and us having to find an actual real floor for Monero's price on the basis of organic demand. And so because of that, you end up with divergences in terms of how Bitcoin versus Monero behave. Monero behaves in bear markets according to that organic price support floor, and so it doesn't fall that much. Bitcoin's prices are more set on the basis of lies and bullshit and hype and speculation and induced hype and speculation and tether and any other number of mechanisms that are dishonest and bullshit in various ways. And so Bitcoin gets these big speculative blow-offs and these big speculative movements. And yes, they get the hype and they generate the hype wave. They generate the news. And XMR doesn't get that, right? XMR isn't really a big recipient of that. There is spillover liquidity that ends up in XMR, but it's not huge. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of price tied there in my mind, and I don't see a whole lot of reason for the XMR price moving as a result of the trading pair itself. But in a way, like there's kind of like a confounding going on there, and I would have to ask myself, could I run a correlation analysis of XMR versus the XMR BTC price? That would be maybe interesting, but also maybe just redundant. And like mathematically invalid, statistically invalid. You would basically just have to write that equation out and then use algebra, basic algebra, to reduce it to its simplest form, and then see if that takes a different form than just than just merely the correlation analysis between Monero and Bitcoin by itself. I'm almost certain that just divides out, and you end up in the you don't get any new information there by doing a correlation analysis between Monero versus XMR BTC. But sometimes math is weird and does a tricky thing that you didn't expect, and you end up with a new term, and you're like, oh wait, that actually does show you a different picture. That would be interesting. I probably won't get around to that, but I encourage you to do it. If you it's easy. Like you could right here we could actually just do I can't ever spell correlation. Yeah, so I do a log Pearson correlation because reasons. And then we need to go here. No, we need to go. Where's my log Pearson?
I'm sorry, but he says he's not going to do it as he sits there and does it.
Yeah, but no, I'm not going to do the algebra in front of you, but I'm just showing if you wanted to play with it, D-Martian, this is how you would do it. And then you would just do Monero. I'm pretty sure that this is like, this doesn't give us any new information. But supposedly the Monero price is correlated to the XMR BTC price fairly significantly, except for a period here where it wasn't. That was actually a bull market, but lately it has been. Again, I don't know if that's actually mathematically valid and gives us any new information than just doing the XMR to Monero, the Monero to Bitcoin correlation analysis. Anyways, all right, that's enough of that. You got to do algebra to resolve that. Or maybe a bit more than algebra, maybe some calculus even. We already looked at bonds. We'll look at the hash rate. Hash rate is flat. We don't even need to look at the transactions. It's flat. We already know it's flat. Recently close to 30K. Cool. And I don't think there's, maybe there's one more thing worth looking at. I'm actually kind of pissed at myself because I lost track of this chart for a period of time. It's like, it's cool to look at this thing like once every few weeks. And probably, I guess I should just look at this once every week. All right, this is the Bitcoin versus the NASDAQ. And we looked at this chart like a few months ago and we were like here. I think we were like here. Maybe we weren't. I think we were like here. Yeah, we were here. And I was saying, guys, this chart is death. It's going to hit this fucking lower standard deviation level. Well, it hit that. And it actually hit that at exactly the same time that it was hitting the lower regression analysis boundary. And that kind of corroboration would have really been nice in the moment for me to be able to come to this chart and point you and say, hey, this is a headliner support level. This is like a macro support level for this chart, in terms of like the entire, I don't know, for at least like the past 4 years. So when you get alignments like that, when the stars align and the astrology tea leaves all tell you the same thing, then usually it's pretty strong. So this is also kind of another indication that Bitcoin probably has found a bottom or is very, very close to finding a bottom. So that's nice, I suppose. Again, I wish that I had seen this chart how many days ago? I guess about 2 weeks ago. I should have looked at this chart and we could have said, hey, yep, this is it. But we're still like, I mean, realistically, guys, we're still 10% off of those lows. So this chart has been death for so long. It is going to turn around at some point here. It's going to try to move up. We'll get a new hype cycle. It probably won't be great. Don't expect Bitcoin to necessarily, like Bitcoin could even double top in the next bull market at 125. Or actually, what they'll do, it'll go to like 135 and people are going to be like, oh, look, it's time for the new bull market. And then that'll be the top, because that's what they've been doing. They set a slightly higher high and it's to induce you plebs to, well, I know you guys aren't plebs, but to induce, the plebs and to basically buying the top liquidity, right? So that the exit liquidity basically. So yeah, there's the Bitcoin versus NASDAQ. That's relevant for us, again, as a corroboration of where the bear market low happens for Bitcoin, which it's looking more and more likely that either it happened or like it's close enough, right? Like maybe we could get a slightly lower low, but it doesn't matter. It's close enough, right? If you sold near the top or you bought near the bottom, you're doing pretty good. You just have to hang on to your bags for a little bit, which I know all of you do. Okay, that's it, guys. Oh, you know what? There's a Fed meeting. They probably didn't say anything that we care about. I don't know. Maybe I should go look at that. If anyone knows what that Fed meeting was, then feel free to say whatever nonsense they talked about. But
I didn't watch it, but apparently the markets didn't appreciate it very much because I think the markets were down like 1,000 points that day. And then it rebounded.
The markets didn't fall off that much. Did that? Let's take a look here. Okay, so on Wednesday the markets did fall. They closed about 2%, but then they came back. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a new Fed chair, so maybe it's worth going and listening to him.
Yeah, from what I understand, that was a bunch of nothing.
Yeah, I mean it's the Fed. They don't matter right now. Maybe they'll kind of matter at some point again, unless they like say something crazy or do something crazy. Like they just don't matter at this point. So, all right, that's all I got for you guys, Doug.
In terms of the Fed, I guess I don't know. You covered the bond market, right? Because it went crazy. Bonds.
I didn't see anything crazy in the bond market.
Oh yeah, in reaction to the new Fed and his announcement, I guess the reaction to where they see things headed with regards to interest rates.
I mean, they said they're going to lower interest rates at some point, right? Or have they changed their? I mean, it's Trump, of course. He put a guy in there that's going to lower the interest rates, or did they say no?
Well, no, he's acting like that's not going to be the case, but everybody thinks it's going to kind of be a fake out.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a fake out. He's probably just trying to temper expectations. The market has gone. I mean, stocks have just really crushed it, and I mean. I guess stocks could just keep going up at the rate that they're going up, but maybe they want to try and temper that somewhat.
But the crazy reaction, I mean, mortgage rates effectively went up. They're
interesting.
Kind of new local all-time highs right now. And that's obviously given to the response of the bond market. So, yeah, it is interesting. I mean,
in a macro sense, as someone who didn't hear what he had to say and wasn't part of any of that drama, bonds look normal to me. Like everything here looks like I would be able to look at this and say, oh, here was the Fed meeting where something like crazy happened. Like this just looks like steady state to me.
Okay.
But that's also just these are USG bonds, right? These are treasuries. So maybe something else happened with banking rates or whatever. Or maybe the banks just need an excuse to raise rates, right? Maybe the banks just want to be able to charge more.
The treasury yields climbed super high.
No, the treasury yields did not climb high. This is the treasury yields chart. Like, if anything, they fell. They fell this week.
I know that the Fed kept interest rates on their target interest rate the same. They didn't change it, although there was like 3 people who wanted to hike it, and the rest of them just wanted to keep it the same.
I guess I take it back. Treasury yields. The long term, right? The long end of the curve, the 30-year. Those came up a little. Those came up a little bit this week, but
they're saying that's the highest levels not seen since 2007.
Yeah, that's more. Looking at this chart, that's more headliner stuff, right? That's just like, hey, let's find a good headline. I mean, look at these. So the purple and the blue here.
But it's above 5% now, right?
This is the 20 and 30. Yeah, but it was already above 5%, right? So this is the 20 and 30-year yield. You can see that they've been in an uptrend for quite a long time. You can see that there was this peak here, another peak before the Fed meeting even happened last week. There was another peak at 5.2, and so now it's at 5.23, 5.22. But
so wait, if you zoom out, so what will so the last time we were here, it was in 2007, correct?
Yes, but this is not because the Fed made an announcement on Wednesday. This is because this chart was already heading this direction.
Yes, yeah.
Like,
but still, I mean, the trend is still in that direction, I guess, is what
actually is. No, like, look, we had a higher, at least for the 20-year. I guess let's just look at the 30-year because people get 30-year mortgage, right?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, sure. I'm sure it's the highest that it's been since 2007. I believe that headline, but it's also like it doesn't really give you the full picture. This chart was like the yields were already rising. This is already a bullish chart. This was already the trajectory. And okay, maybe the Fed didn't help this trajectory slow down at all. But I mean, neither is that the reason why bonds are so high right now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't most mortgages based on the 10-year because most people don't stay in a house for 30 years? Like they get a 30-year mortgage, but they don't actually stay there for 30 years and generally sell after 10 or so. So the mortgage rates are based on the 10-year.
Is that true?
Not sure about that.
That's what I've heard.
It's possible, I guess.
Well, I know mortgage rates went up in response to what happened to the 30-year. So at least that's what they said.
Interesting.
All right. Action packed as always. So, I mean, buddy, you think this whole 4-year cycle, we hit a bottom in the next month or so in the fall? You think we're on? That's the track we're on.
Wait, I'm sorry. Say that again.
4-year cycle, right? Looking like that is the case, right? And that if that is the case, then we would be bottoming out in the fall, and then, right?
Yeah, I mean, we could have already bottomed. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, do you really want to try and catch the slightly lower low that may or may not happen, or do you really just want to like get yourself in the market and then sit tight for another year or two?
I do feel like crypto might start to rally in the fall. Like,
I've been hearing Lynn Alden talking about we're in the bottom. She's calling it the bottom decile.
Okay, so what does that mean?
Like right near like the bottom 10% or whatever. So like it might go just a little bit lower, but you might as well just, if you're going to be buying, you might as well just start buying here.
Okay, yeah. Like it could go lower, but
she could be right, but I also wouldn't listen to Lynn Alden. Period. She has too many she has there's too many conflicts of interest for her. Like she wants you to believe something because she has a monetary investment in some direction and she has a big enough reach that she might be able to affect the market. And it's just like, maybe she's honest and she's not doing that, but like anyone with her kind of reach is going to have some capacity to affect the market. So she just has a conflict of interest. And I it's not that I wouldn't listen to any like entertain ideas that she might put out, but I just know that every time I've listened to her, I've been like, this is just milk toast. Like, I just don't feel like there's anything good here.
Somebody's saying Zcash did just launch their new pool. I guess that was in response when you were, I guess, going over Zcash and price. But that is big news. So what is it, Ironwood? Yeah,
that's their inflation pool. So now everyone has to turnstile yet again into their inflation pool.
I know, it's a little weird. It's a little weird.
Their price shouldn't have done that. Like when you have that kind of like when your chain is that bad and you have like weaknesses that are that fucking horrible, your price goes into the shitter, and it should stay.
Can you imagine it was happening in Moneroland? All right, everybody, we all have to move our crypto to it. Like it'd be like price would freaking crater.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fake price. Like I just don't believe that price is real in the slightest. It's completely propped up.
Yeah, there's no way the hell the Zcash price is real. No fucking way.
Yeah, but interesting to see. So they reacted pretty quickly, pretty swiftly. I don't know, was Ironwood already in the works, I guess, though, before that exploit was found? I don't even know. But yeah, it's launched, it's up. People are migrating. Obviously, if you get to the point where, somebody goes to migrate and there's not enough Zcash there, then you'll see the price really start to dip. Which reminds me, I better move some Zcash myself. It's scary. That is insane. Imagine you go to move it and it's you can't get through the toll. It could happen. But yeah, people are pretty confident that the exploit wasn't taken advantage of. And given that everybody will be migrating, I guess theoretically we will see. Although, right, we have that other pool where people have never completely moved out of it. The sapling.
Yeah, they got sapling and orchard and I don't know, a bunch of others.
Like, yeah, they're running out of tree parts. Oh man. All right, let me buddy, is that it? Is that it for price?
Yep. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, yeah, let me quickly run through the news. We'll do that, and then we could do viewers on stage. If we have a guest, did anybody jump up in the background? All right, so no guest yet officially. If anybody wants to be one this week, please jump on up. Otherwise, let's go ahead and do the news.
The Monerotopia Weekly News segment is sponsored by WizardSwap.io, a non-custodial cryptocurrency exchange.
What the heck is this? Hold on, guys. Hold on, guys. You got to bear with me for a second.
It's Microsoft calling because you have a virus on your computer.
Don't scare me.
Speaking of which, is your new computer running Linux?
No. It's a Mac.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's better than Windows.
Yeah.
You can be somewhat forgiven.
But I have to get used to it. What the heck is this thing doing? Oh, guys. I don't know why I'm getting this weird message and it's not letting me. Hold on, guys. Let's see if it still lets me.
Otherwise, we might have a very, very short news section this week.
Okay. Hold on.
To be fair, I think we got the biggest news topic. Right.
Yeah, we covered, I think, the biggest news topics. Hold on, guys.
Isn't it fun having technical difficulties when we're live?
Yeah, this is very annoying.
Because that's just how it always is. Like, things don't work when you try to go live.
I don't know why it's asking me to do this, actually. Hold on a second. Hold on, guys. Shortwave, I need you to cover for me for a sec.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what do you want to talk about? That's the big thing. I don't know of any other real big news that happened this week because I don't pay attention to X or any of the other big news sources.
Yeah, so it's weird because, oh my God. Oh, wait, maybe I got it. Okay.
Wait for it. Wait for
Just, these unnecessary things that happen.
Let's see. Freedom. Let's see freedom.tech and see if they have anything interesting or not.
Hold on.
Your cold card wallet vulnerability. Yes, we know about that.
Is it showing my screen now?
That I don't know. Did we lose Doug's microphone? Uh-oh. What happened?
Oh, Doug disappeared.
Oh, fun.
Shortwave, let's talk about Monero maximalism.
Okay. Should you be a Monero maximalist? I don't know. I kind of am.
Yeah.
I was asked on
belief that it's the best currency out there.
I was asked on Noster if I lived on a Monero standard, and my answer was that I pay all my bills as much as I can in Monero. I price my net worth in Monero. Like, I kind of am a Monero maximalist in a way. Although, personally, like, whatever's the best at being digital cash is what I want to use, and Monero just happens to serve that purpose.
Yeah, I'm like a de facto Monero maximalist.
Like, for now, I don't see a better option.
Yeah. I agree with you. I'm trying to buy Doug back.
Do we have anybody? We could. I guess we could go on to viewers on stage. Do we have any viewers like Alaska or somebody? He would fill airspace. If we're not.
It says I'm not a Monero maxi by choice. It's just that everything else is a scam.
Isn't that the thing? Most of crypto is a scam. Like 99% of crypto is just a total scam. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's to be expected for something so new.
Now, all the other cryptos kind of put a sour taste in people's mouth when it comes to actually using a cryptocurrency like Monero.
Yeah, people are like, oh, cryptocurrency, the entire thing is a scam, and so they don't want to touch it.
Yeah.
And it's like, there are some actually legitimate things.
Yep. Understood.
All right, guys. Sorry about that. And I
No
don't
problem.
even know if I can bring up the news. I'm going to try again. Hold on.
If you disappear again, we'll know why. If you disappear again, we'll move to viewers on stage and bring up Alaska. I'm certain he'll have something to say.
Yeah. I mean, I need somebody to run the news. Let's see if I can bring it up. Let's see if this works.
Cross your fingers and pray to the Lord. Whatever deity.
All right, I was able to get up. Now you just have to give me a minute so I get up, bring back all the links. So go ahead and do some small talk, guys, as I carry the links over. It's just gonna take me a sec.
Yeah, no problem. How many links do you have this week? Is there a bunch of them?
Not a lot. Not a lot.
Okay.
Not a lot.
Shortwave, have you tested out OpenClaw?
I have not. Can you use OpenClaw with any agent, or do you have to use those specific ones?
Yeah, I'm real confused about it. I'm not sure. I just remember the Claude source code or whatever got leaked, and then I remember hearing there's like a open source agent coming after it because of it.
All I know about OpenClaw is that it was causing a bunch of people to buy Mac Minis or whatever. Like I do know that, but that's about all I know.
This is annoying me. I had all the links ready to go, so I lost some of them because I was finding others as we were chatting.
Oh, that's all right.
Come on, guys. You can keep talking. You can do it.
Running out of topics there, sir.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, there's not a whole lot of news, and so it's like hard to talk about something that there's not very much of. I mean, maybe if I was an X user, I'd find something, but I don't use that.
Jesus Christ, dude. This is like way too painful. Need a better system.
Is it just me, or does anybody else find the news section to be the least valuable section of the show entirely anyway?
No, I think we we get some good information out there.
Okay. I've always
Gives me a
wanted to find
chance
the
to say
news
some
feed,
things. Just run it smoothly. I mean, it usually goes pretty smooth when I have the links, but until I figure out how to do it on here for some reason. Meanwhile, now I lost half my links. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So here we go. Whatever. I'll just do with what I got here. So first story, we have Untraceable. You want to just run the news section again from scratch? Let's go ahead and do that.
The Monerotopia Weekly News segment is sponsored by WizardSwap.io, a non-custodial cryptocurrency exchange.
Alrighty, so first story we have Untraceable. He's posting, I created the simplest way to set up your Hermes or OpenClaw agent with Monero for autonomously making receiving payments. Agent Monero. No Docker containers, no dependency, no terminal commands, just a node and a wallet with funds, 5 minutes to set up. So super cool. Untraceable created this. So I guess it becomes a way for these to, it's essentially create a Monero agent that has its own wallet that it can use and it can go spend and use Monero on its own. Exciting to see. That's obviously the future. It's already happening. There's going to be all these agents out there, and they're going to be using crypto. It doesn't make sense for them to use credit cards. They won't have accessibility to do so. So they're going to be using crypto. Wouldn't it be cool to see them using Monero? And Untraceable has brought us a step closer in that direction. Cakewallet. How did we conduct the @Zcash Ironwood upgrade while preserving user privacy? Seth for Privacy breaks down how it worked with his article. So you guys can check this out. But yeah, Cakewallet did a really good job at preparing for the Ironwood upgrade. We were talking about this before. Zcash had how to create a new shielded pool. It's called Ironwood after there was the exploit in the existing one. And so it's live now and people are migrating over. I had pulled up in the news earlier before I lost the links showing the amount of people that have moved over. It's still a relatively small amount. Like we had said earlier, there's still Zcash that is stuck in even older pools like Sapling that just never moved, which is interesting to see. But Ironwood is, if you do use Zcash, you need to go ahead and move it over to the Ironwood pool. That is the latest and greatest. Say what you will. The fact that we're moving around to pools with these turnstiles. But if you use Zcash, that is the smart thing to do. And one of the best ways, not the best way to do that right now, is via Cakewallet because of the UX that they created. So you kind of seamlessly move your Zcash that's in the current shielded pool over to the new Ironwood pool in a way where you will preserve your privacy as you do it. So I recommend people check out this article that Seth wrote. And if you're in a position where you have Zcash in the current shielded pool and need to move to Ironwood, recommend using Cakewallet for those purposes. Next story, we have Schmidt posting Monero update, full chain membership proof ++ audit found one minor issue left. An AI helped spot a double spend bug. Devs approved more audits, fuzzing, safer code, and aim for February hard fork. So more progress on full chain membership proofs ++. There was some recent thing that was found in an audit. They're fixing that. There's this fuzzing thing that he makes mention of. Fuzzing is it's a CSS where they're looking funding for it, I believe. And basically, it's going to be a way to continue to audit Monero, is my understanding, on a more continuous basis. I'd like to do a show with them. Get the guy on who's going to be running that project. It's something that really interests me. I keep saying, hey, how do we set up a system essentially where Monero protocol can continuously kind of be audited as new AI models are released and whatnot. I don't think that's exactly what fuzzing is looking to do, but something like that. And excited to see that they're mentioning February as the hard fork date. So if that was the case, that they would be announcing it soon because there's going to be a 6-month period. The idea is that there are some more audits that are taking place, but they're going to make the announcement soon anyway, it seems like, for the hard fork. And if anything comes up in those audits during that 6-month period while we're waiting for the actual merge to happen or the hard fork to activate, then they would stall the activation. But yeah, they're trying to balance auditing with moving along as quickly as possible. So beautiful to see that taking place. Next story, what do we got? Already brought that one up. This was kind of big news this week. We didn't mention this. Russia charges Telegram founder and CEO Pavel Durov with facilitating terrorism. An international arrest warrant has been issued. So scary stuff. Haven't been following the story too closely. But the Russian government is coming after Pavel for allegedly funding terrorism, facilitating terrorism by way of, I guess, allowing terrorists to use Telegram.
I think Pavel put up a social media post showing the middle finger after that. That's what I...
Yeah, I did see that. I did see
what I
that.
heard
So I
about
guess he's obviously not in Russia. I think he's in France. Is he in France? I'm not sure where he is. But yeah, wishing him luck. Although obviously Telegram has its issues, right? It's not really good privacy tech by any means. But hey, he does have a platform that's used by people all over the world. And now Russia is accusing him of facilitating terrorism by way of offering this platform. Nobody wants to see that. We don't want to create precedent for that. We don't want governments basically accusing developers and founders that create these web platforms of the crimes that are committed on them from their users. Let's see what else I got here. I don't have much more. Okay, this is another story that popped up on my radar. Federal agents in Atlanta stopped a guy at the airport, forced him to unlock his phone, and it self-wiped using Graphene's OL's built-in duress feature. The DOJ is now charging him with destroying evidence. So they asked him for his PIN. He gave them a PIN, and when they put that PIN in, it was a duress PIN that basically auto-swipes, clean the phone.
I think we discussed this last week or so, but yeah, that did
did we? Okay,
yeah,
that was brought up last week. So yeah, I mean the advice there, right, is don't bring a phone that has a lot of valuable information on it. Bring a phone that you're willing to give up if it's taken away. But if you can't do that, turn your phone off when you cross the border. Just completely shut it off, and use a decently long PIN. And then they would have to compel you to give up that PIN. So that's the way to basically, just deny, plead the fifth or whatever it is. You're unwilling. Yeah, I would like to speak to an attorney, and you're unwilling to give up the code. They can't compel speech. They can't compel you to give that PIN out. What this guy did was he gave a PIN out, which then auto deleted the phone. So he's basically being accused of destroying evidence. So pretty crazy how that worked out. I mean, he kind of did the right thing in trying to protect himself, but they're using it against him.
I will be very
He's
interested.
going to have a field day.
I will be very interested to see where this case goes.
Yes. I hope obviously they weigh in his favor, but I could see the argument that's being made, which is crazy. But yeah, I think the advice would be to turn your phone off and have a long passcode.
I mean, the way I see it, he did the right thing because he was under duress. Like, I don't care if you're wearing a suit or if you're wearing if you're carrying a shotgun, you're still under duress.
Yeah, but it's like, imagine you get caught in a crime with the gun, and they're like, freeze, and I don't know, you somehow can destroy the gun in that moment. Be like, I never had a gun. Like, I could see the argument that's being made that he destroyed evidence, right?
Oh,
now you could say, well, what evidence?
Is the criminal.
We don't know if there was anything on the phone, right? But I guess even that is evidence. So yeah, it's unfortunate to see, but knowing what I know of the law, that would be my general advice. Obviously, travel with a phone that has nothing on it. If that's not the case, turn your phone off, use a long passcode, and they can't compel you to say what your code is, your PIN is. they could try, and they certainly would, and they'll scare you, and they'll tell you that they'll throw you in jail. But if you're coming into the U.S., my understanding is legally you'll be okay if you take
the way that case turns out is anyone's guess, because there is no system of law in America. It doesn't exist. If they want that case to go a certain way, then they'll make it go that way. If they need to set an important precedent, they'll do that. But if there was law in America, the factors that would matter would be, did they have a warrant? Did they positively inform him that they had a warrant? Or are they just requesting that he unlock his phone, right? And for there to be evidence of a crime, there has to be a crime. So they need to have a crime that they accused him of. And it wouldn't even work out to like the law of hot pursuit or the law of like, let's suppose it's a drug bust, and you're flushing your drugs down the toilet and they're like, well, you're destroying evidence. It's like, okay, that's they in that case, the cops saw that there was a crime being committed. I mean, it's drugs, it's not a crime, but from that perspective, there's a crime being committed and they saw you destroying evidence. But in this case, it's like, I mean, who knows? I don't know the details of this case, but if they didn't have a crime in particular that they suspected him of, and they hadn't issued a warrant, and they hadn't positively informed him, and they were just requesting that he unlock his phone, then legally speaking, under the American system, this should be a no-brainer. Like, this shouldn't even go to trial. It should just be like, well, you don't have those factors, dismissed. But this is also kind of a new thing, so they're going to want to litigate it, and these guys, these Pharisee lawyers and judges, they'll come up with any fucking twisted, contorted, tortured logic necessary to do what they want to do. And so it just depends on whether or not like the powers that be view this as important enough that they like need to, set some precedent.
You're right. Hold on, guys. 1 second.
That's an interesting ringtone there, Doug.
All right, so let me continue here with the news. This was a big story here in New York, and it relates to the story I'm going to bring up next. So Mondami, he's kind of infamous now globally. Everybody's heard of Mondami, our communist overlord here in New York City. So let's go ahead and play this video. This is about his most recent grand idea that he's putting into practice. Are we able to hear this? Are you guys able to hear this? No?
If there's anything playing at the moment, then no.
Oh, wait, here we go. How about now?
City that will spend $126 billion this year. But it's a vivid reminder of what doubling down on a bad campaign promise looks like and the high costs associated. Stores.
Today, I am proud to announce a collection of essential staples that will be predictably 30% cheaper at all 5 of our city-run grocery stores.
The Mamdani administration calls this a core pillar of the city's affordability agenda, but it's not. It's 5 grocery stores in a city of 8.5 million people. It's a campaign promise that's now being reverse engineered into a policy. The current plan is a 30% discount on all produce, meat, and seafood, as well as 20 other pantry items. But the 44-page RFP that they released yesterday alongside this announcement is a lot less confident. See, they are looking for a private operator to actually run these stores. And page 20 of this RFP asks directly, how much of a discount could you offer, if any, if the city covers your rent, property taxes, and build out? Which means that the split of this 30% discount of what's covered by the operator versus your tax dollars has not been figured out yet. What this program will cost on an annual basis is anyone's guess. But we do know what it will cost to set up. $70 million across 5 grocery stores. The 9,000 square foot one in Manhattan will take up almost half of that at $30 million. A private grocer opens a comparable store for a fraction of that cost. And who exactly are these city-run grocery stores even for? The people in the immediate walking distance of these locations? I mean, groceries are heavy. No one is taking the train from the Lower East Side to Harlem to go shopping. Meanwhile, we have a food assistance program that works so much better than this. SNAP works at almost every grocery store across across the city, and it screens for people who actually need it. And 22,000 New Yorkers lost these benefits just last month because of the new federal requirements. We should be spending this exact money to help them, not on ground-up construction that will take 4 years. Ultimately, these 5 grocery stores are a rounding error for a city that will spend $126 billion this year. But it's a vivid reminder of what doubling down on a bad campaign promise looks like, and the high costs associated of whenever the city gets involved in a private industry that they have no business being in.
Right. Yes. So that's the latest Mondami drama, or at least some of it. He's opening up city-run grocery stores that are essentially run by some contractor that that the city is hooking up. They'll be paying millions and millions of dollars to run these grocery stores, and in a way where they can charge prices at less than 30% compared to competition. So they're going to knock the competition out with a city-run grocery store that's run by some contractor that's getting hooked up with millions and millions of dollars, taxpayers' dollars, so that they can run this store in a way that is able to charge lower prices than what the prices naturally would be in an open and fair market. So it's just a freaking disaster. And they're literally, I think, building these stores too. So the amount of money that's going to go into that, and which is going to be built through all, government contracts, which cost 10 times more to do than if you build it through the private industry. So complete mess, and insane that he's actually moving forward with this.
I used to
absolutely insane.
I used to take the bus to go buy groceries, but then I found Instacart, and I started using that instead, because otherwise I'd have to take the bus, then get a shopping assistant to go shopping, and then take the groceries home on the bus, or I would have to get an Uber, which would cost money, and then go there and then take an Uber home with the groceries and have a shopper's assistant. And it was just a lot easier to use Instacart.
Okay. Well, not sure how that relates to city-run grocery stores.
Sure. Oh, I'm saying that he was talking about nobody wants to go to the grocery store on the bus, and it's like, I used to do that.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's like, okay. He also wants to give free bus rides, but that hasn't happened. Free bus rides for everyone, but just insane. So this is happening in New York City. It's wild. And so it relates to this next story. I've spoken about the fact that we have a race for governor that's happening right now in New York State. So Mondami is the mayor of New York City, but now the governor is up for re-election. And because of Mondami, because of the crazy communist things he is doing and attempting to do, there's a very real chance that the Republican candidate for New York State governor can win. I happen to know him. I brought him up on the show before, discussed him. And the reasons I've been talking about him is because I think we can get him on board with eliminating the bit license here in New York. And if he's elected, the governor can do that. The governor can do that essentially with a swipe of the pen. Wouldn't need the New York State legislature involved because of the way the bit license was created. It was basically under the guise of the governor's office at the time. It can be just as easily eliminated, which would be tremendous. It would be an about time thing here in New York. New York State is the only state that has a license like this. It's just excessive. There already are money transmitting laws on the federal level and the state level. And then in addition to those laws that these exchanges, for example, have to follow, they're then asked to get this additional bit license. It just creates a regulatory moat and gives an advantage to those that have the license. And it has really stymied crypto here in New York from the early days, from 2015 when it was created. Kraken, because of that, effectively, ultimately, New York customers have never had access to Monero on a centralized exchange.
Well, even U.S. customers are going to lose access to Monero on a centralized exchange once Kraken delists.
Yeah, if it does. But in the meantime, idea being, let's get rid of the bit license here in New York. Kraken can serve New York customers, and it's just a step in the right direction. It will allow crypto to blossom in many other ways. So let me go ahead and play this clip, not completely related to what I just spoke about in terms of the bit license, but I was here. I was out on the street here in Little Italy yesterday with Bruce. I watched him give this stump speech. So one of the other things that the mayor has done recently, in addition to opening up city-owned grocery stores, is he released a map of New York City, all the boroughs of New York City, and he labeled all the ethnic areas, all the immigrant communities, as a way to show how diverse New York City is. But he left off some very significant ones that everybody knows about, right? Like kind of world famous. Little Italy. He failed to mention Little Italy as one of these communities while naming all these other little ones that you wouldn't even know existed. He also left off the Greeks in Astoria. There's a bunch that he left off. And the crazy part is he lives in Astoria, or at least did before he became mayor. And anybody who knows New York, when you say Astoria, the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, Greeks. That's where you go to the Greek restaurants, go to the Greek cafe. There's been a lot of gentrification over the years, but still, it's still known as kind of Little Greece. Instead, he wrote Little Egypt because there is a growing section that has an Egyptian population, but completely failed to mention Greece. So it was very divisive what he ended up doing. And by way of doing that, he completely rallied up the Italian Americans in Long Island City. So let's go ahead and watch this clip of Bruce Blakeman.
He left these off because he doesn't recognize the great achievements of the immigrants that came before, like the Italian Americans have made in medicine, in law, in science, in education, in finance, in business. And they built this city, they built this state, they built this country. So listen, we got to stand up to that jadrul, Zoran Mandami, and tell him, Ufa, we're in Little Italy, we're here to stay. May God bless our Italian Americans, may God bless our Americans, and may God bless America. Thank you. Bruce. There we go. Everybody, one more round of applause for Bruce Blakeman.
So there's energy. There's energy in the campaign because of the mayor, because of Mandami, and Bruce Blakeman has a real chance. Now, whatever you think of his politics, whatever, I don't, you know, you may not be aligned with his politics necessarily, but if you're aligned with the fact that the bit license shouldn't exist in New York, Bruce Blakeman is your candidate. Me personally, I am aligned with his politics. I think we absolutely need Bruce Blakeman as governor, given Mandami. Actually, a little known fact: the governor could effectively fire a mayor. Never been done, but there is a means by which a governor could eject the mayor, New York City mayor, from office. Obviously, if he did something, I guess, where he's found guilty of a crime, whatever it is, he essentially could impeach a mayor. So that's another little known fact. But before this went down in Little Italy, I had a sit down with Bruce, and I brought him up to speed on the bit license with the founder of PubKey. PubKey is the Bitcoin bar in New York City. They have one in New York City and DC. They're not just a bar. They are also happen to be like OG Bitcoiners that are very into trying to move the needle on a political level for purposes of helping crypto. Now, I know we have a big anarchist crowd here. They're kind of cringing just at the thought of that, right? Like, oh, why are we putting energy towards this? But there are people that do put energy towards that. Coin Center, right? There's all these lobbyists that are actively trying to get things done in DC and through local governments that kind of pave the way for crypto in terms of making it more acceptable. PubKey are one of those institutions, and they do quite well. So I brought the PubKey guy together with Bruce Blakeman, and we had a great conversation at the cafe right outside where this stump speech happened. And can't officially announce anything yet, but Bruce was very enthusiastic. He was very receptive of the concepts and the ideas. He's a big liberty guy. He's a big, pro-capitalist. Let's get rid of regulation, unnecessary regulation. So I think soon we will be able to officially say something with regards to Bruce Blakeman's position on the bit license. And that will be super bullish, right? If we're out here saying that on day one, Bruce Blakeman pledges to eliminate the bit license, it's going to give him a lot of energy from the crypto crowd in New York. And I think he can win. He's only 4 points behind in the polls. So this is, in my opinion, our best path towards eliminating the bit license here in New York State and making Monero more accessible to New Yorkers. This has been a strategy of mine for quite some time, and it's actually coming to fruition. It's not a pipe dream. Bruce Blakeman's absolutely in the running here, and he is very seemingly completely on board with eliminating the bit license. So that's my exciting story for the week. That's all the news I got, guys. Anything else I should be bringing up, Shortwave?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I think we covered. Oh, you know what? Let me bring up this story here. So yeah, I'm hoping maybe at some point I have Blakeman maybe on a Monero talk. He's going to be probably making the circuit on the Bitcoiner shows. And yeah, there'll be a lot more coming with regards to that. We're looking to host an event for him at PubKey. So I'll be announcing that in the coming days, weeks. So yeah, let me bring up this story. So somebody posted, got scammed for 0.5 XMR on XMR Bazaar, a copy of an escrow account. Yeah, so we chatted about this a little bit last week. It's basically the same thing. So people are using fake usernames and tricking people into thinking they're mediators or thinking they're me. And, Douglas Tuman using a different letter, making it look like my account, and then perhaps using my profile, and then people not clicking on the account and looking to see how old the account actually is and doing due diligence, and people making the big mistake of sending people Monero directly and being tricked into doing it to these users. So do not do that. So this is not a flaw in XMR Bazaar. Obviously, there's things that can be done to help prevent people from falling for these scams. But it's not a flaw in the way XMR Bazaar is built. It's not a flaw in the way the escrow works. We've even taken XMR Bazaar escrow out of beta. We've always had it marked as beta, but just so people don't think it's not working, it is working. That was part of the scam, people being like pretending they're the mediator like Aaliyah or whoever it is, a known mediator, copying their account, making it look like they are that person, and then convincing them like, oh, the escrow system is broken, so just send me the Monero directly. Like, oh my God, guys, just come on, use some common sense. But yeah, this is no different than people getting scammed on Telegram, which we saw quite a bit. People were using my profile on Telegram, copying my profile. It's even harder to scam somebody because there's no profile page to go look at. At least on XMR Bazaar, you can look at their profile page. You could see who they, try to figure out if they're the real person who they say they are. But yeah, these type of scams can happen on Telegram. I've had, unfortunately, a lot of people that got scammed on Telegram that was going around. People pretend being the @Chowbunga Man, messaging people like, hey, send me 10 grand in Monero. I'm about to buy some Bitcoin miners. Can you please lend it to me? Like, oh my God, guys. First of all, why would I be buying 10 grand Bitcoin miners? But unfortunately, a lot of people fell for that one. So yeah, on XMR Bazaar, just be safe. If you're using the escrow system, actually use the escrow system that's built into XMR Bazaar. Don't start sending people Monero outside of the escrow system expecting them to carry out escrow for you. They are just a scammer. Use the built-in escrow system. It's built into the browser. It will walk you through the steps, and only then do you send Monero, and you send it, based on the address that's generated in XMR Bazaar, where it's telling you to send the Monero to for purposes of escrow. All that being said, we have taken steps to help prevent people from getting scammed. So making it harder for people to copy accounts. You can no longer edit a username. We've given badges to actual mediators, so you see that they have the badge. We took away the X verification badge because people were just trying to make themselves look more official by having one when it really doesn't mean much other than an X account is associated with an account you have. We're going to change profile pics, so I think new users won't even be allowed to upload a profile pic, or it will just their profile pic will essentially be watermarked, shown as a new user. So if you try to copy Douglas Tuman, you won't be able to use my profile pic, or if you try to use it, it will have a watermark on there like new user, and we'll keep it like that for quite some time, I guess, unless they carry out a certain amount of trades, whatever it may be. Taking other steps as well, but at the end of the day, unfortunately, there's only so much XMR Bazaar can do in terms of preventing people from copying people's names and trying to trick them into thinking they're somebody else. Like I said, we see this in all types of platforms. People fake usernames on Facebook. They fake usernames on different types of messengers. And obviously, XMR Bazaar does not KYC. We don't ask you for information, so we try to balance that against preventing people from creating fake usernames. So very unfortunate to see that people got scammed in this way, but very easy to avoid. Do not, if you think you're using escrow, use the actual escrow system in XMR Bazaar. Do not be tricked into sending people Monero outside of the escrow system, where they say they're going to basically escrow it for you. Just send it to this Monero address that I generated. Oh, the escrow system is not working, so just send it here. Do not fall for that scam, please. That is the last story of the week. All right. That's all we got. All I got there. We could do viewers on stage, guys. See if anybody wants to jump on up.
The Monerotopia Viewers on Stage segment is sponsored by XMR.win, the first Monero-based prediction market. Privately and anonymously predict the future with Monero. No email required for sign-up and no KYC ever. Deposit any crypto to place wagers, but always get paid out in XMR.
Please gamble responsibly in accordance with the laws of your jurisdiction.
RemSee, what's up, man?
Just hanging out, was watching the show, so figured I'd hop on.
Yeah, we appreciate it. It. Any comments on any of the news this week? All the big stories of the week? Anything?
Oh, we didn't talk about the AI hedge fund blowing up. It's not really Monero related, I guess, but it was still, that was entertaining.
I don't even know that one. What happened with that?
Oh yeah, so it's this guy. He's kind of like been hyped up. This guy, his name's Leopold Aschenbrenner. First off, just the name itself is insane. Just like, obviously that guy's going to be like do well for himself with a name like that. Anyway, he like had some hedge fund. He somehow created a hedge fund that got up to like $200 million, and he used leverage to get it up to like 20 billion. And then it like crashed this week and was liquidated by Citadel. So that was a big finance story. Obviously people want to hate on AI these days. Maybe justified, maybe not in certain cases, but yeah, basically everyone wants this AI bubble to crash, and so they're like looking at this and saying, "Oh, this is the AI bubble crashing." But yeah, it's just like things happen when people get 20x levered. The guy was actually 4x leverage. He wasn't 20x leverage. He was 4x levered on public AI stocks. So when the semiconductors crash happened, he had a big position, and it was I think Citadel came in and bought the stocks that were public at a massive discount.
Did that have anything to do with the crazy South Korean market crash because of them being like 50% with two stocks? Like most of their market was AI, and like the South Korean market crashed like 40% in like a day or two.
It's totally possible. The way that leverage works is you get to your liquidation point and then you lose everything, right? So if you're Citadel, you're manipulating the market to have like a temporary crash, so that way his position gets in further underwater. And he was also, the Leopold Aschenbrenner guy was apparently also getting married that weekend. So people think like the hedge funds were like targeting specifically when he like was doing other stuff. Anyway, that's why you need privacy.
That sounds like that guy. What was that fool's name? The Wynn guy, James Wynn or whatever, that was like on Hyperliquid and was like getting people to send him more money because of he was getting like scammed or whatever. They were hunting him or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can get your liquidation point hunted on Hyperliquid. Yeah, that one's just it'll tell you what your liquidation price is. If you're a social media guy trading you, people are gonna mess with your position because they want to liquidate you.
James Wynn is more like James Lose, and this guy suffered the same fate basically.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's a real name, James Wynn.
I see we have a new name here, Mojo.
Mojo, yeah, or Mojo, that could work too. Yeah, you got a lot of.
I'm using the Spanish.
Yeah, that's right.
Mojo, what's up, brother?
So I've been
recognize the voice a little bit, but
it's I'm working on my Mojo, Martha Mojo. Yeah, I've been contemplating something for a little while, and I'm thinking of actually doing something. I've been actually going through the initial steps of trying to put something together, and it's based on a lot of what's talked about on this show. That all roads lead to Monero, and it being a life raft basically for something. But the problem with the Titanic is that they didn't have enough life rafts, and as much as all roads bring us to Monero, I think it could help to have a few. Maybe have a new variant, a new project. I've been tossing around the idea of something like a friendly fork, kind of like Monero, but not being a meme coin. More so, something that could do something a bit different with the economics, different tail emission, different transaction fees. Something that might bring in developers that haven't been part of the community yet for whatever reason. Maybe because they just need a way to make it justify the economics of it. They can't afford to have political views or spend time developing. Create more. I don't know. What do you think about that? Does that make sense at all?
I mean, if there's a real organic need for another chain, right? I mean, it will just happen, right? I mean, to just randomly create one. What's the real like? What would be the differences?
Okay. So, well, one thing is I would want to start by having a higher mining rewards, and including with tail emission. I think that would be something that would benefit us because we really need miners that can make a profit. If you rely on charitable miners, which it seems like there's a lot of those. That's great to have for the community, but I don't know if that's sustainable or if it's something that could withstand the forces of greed-based incentives. So if somebody came, like when there's been attacks like last year, there was a chain trying to attack the Monero network, and that was greed-based. I think that it's really hard to be resolute against that in the long term if you don't have something that can withstand that. And if there was something that were to get good old reliable Monero in that kind of way, it would be good to have some kind of temporary, at least, fallback for that kind of situation.
I think the mining tail emission is not the best way to reward miners. If you really wanted to increase the security capability of Monero, you'd try to do some proof of stake system. Xano is experimenting, I think, with proof of stake. But yeah, that means that your security budget is for a single attack is much higher if you are proof of stake. So Monero's tail emission right now is 0.6 XMR. So 0.6 XMR every 2 minutes is not a whole lot. Whereas in a proof of stake system, you have to like get basically up to the amount of stake just to attack. So it would be like you need 100 million XMR to do an attack. So that's one reason why people have explored proof of stake as a concept in Monero. But yeah, ultimately it does harm the decentralization of the protocol. And like the permissionlessness and just the purity of the proof of work, I think. So yeah, it's I like to see other chains experimenting with it, but I just don't think it's tenable for actual implementation into Monero.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the problem that I'm looking to solve is I would like to increase the amount of devs that are able to work on the project and find ways to do so. And I think the economics might be part of the key to that. Or maybe it might also be that another project technically isn't banned. It hasn't been maligned as much by the powers that be. And that can be helpful because sometimes staying quiet is the right answer, but sometimes staying quiet lets people define the narrative about you. And maybe it would be fruitful to see what happens when there's a different flavor that is a bit more clear about saying we're agnostic to however people want to surveil. We're trying to prevent that there's plenty of reasons, plenty of ways to surveil people in the world. You don't need to do it through money, and there's plenty of ways that could cause harm. So we're here for legitimate reasons, blah blah blah. Basically, just a PR face that can more of a PR face than what the OG Monero project has.
Like a marketing team, yeah. We rely on you cannot go around the world and go to like a bunch of fancy events. I've gone, like, Kraken is a centralized exchange. They host events. I've gone to some fancy events that they have hosted, and Monero, unfortunately, as fun as Monerotopia is, it is not the Carlton cans or the Singapore's Marina Bay Sands. Unfortunately,
it's better than that. Come on, bro.
Better is a subjective
I would have
measurement.
to say I also prefer the way that it is right now, and I've been to the other ones. Like,
that doesn't give me the heat.
Right, it is different.
Like, what am I hanging out? No one's looking to spend my free time there. But I get you. I mean, so Mojo, man, I don't know, man. I mean, we see all these things being tested already, right? We have Zcash has the founders fee, right, and they use that to fund development. So there's already these forks, different cryptos that are trying these different models. I mean, sure, give it a go. Honestly, I don't think it's going to be anything that will compete with Monero. Will it bring in new developers? I don't know. I think I'd rather see us figure out how to bring in more development directly into Monero itself. Given how established Monero is, the fact that it is arguably one of, if not the most used crypto in terms of people actually transacting with it for purpose of buying and selling things. I mean, Monero has a ton going for it. So take advantage of that momentum. And, it has a market cap. It's not zero. There is money out there. Just figure out how to get more of those funds to the developers and how to create means of paying developers. So it's not that they have to go raise funds whenever they want to be paid. I think maybe that's where the problem needs to be solved.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's where I could better align my energy. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, if you could solve that problem, it is a huge problem. I totally agree with it. If you're going to have check boxes of who has advantages and disadvantages, that Zcash has some advantages in that area. Obviously, Monero gets its development done. It happens in an open source way. The devs do get funded, but they're not being paid that well, guys. And they have to worry about like trying to get the next Monero CCS. It's a big difference between just being able to essentially work full time for a company that's paying you a paycheck. And that's Zcash is able to do that with the founder's fee. Obviously, that comes at a cost.
Isn't that what the Monero what's that thing called? Something Foundation?
Yes, the Magic.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean they do a better job at that. But
so I
maybe we
wanna
need
say
even more
something about the
associations.
Magic Fund real quick, and this is criticism, I know,
Alaska.
but it is wonderful. I'm glad it exists. I'm grateful for the people who run it. However, if you're doing small projects with the Monero's Magic Fund, there is a lot of bureaucracy between you and your money because they have to comply with all of those, nonprofit rules and regulations and so on. It makes it very, very difficult think of it this way. If you're going to do like 5 hours worth of work, okay, and you have to do 5 hours worth of paperwork to do 5 hours worth of work, that's some misaligned financial incentives.
And deal with the politics of it. People be like, fuck you, I don't like your idea, I don't like you as a person. Like what? I just want to help develop some code for Monero.
Doug was just talking about someone created the OpenClaw for Monero extension, so he's having AI that decides what gets all the Monero development funds.
The AI judge in charge of the Monero treasury.
So one of the things that I think would be really cool for like business adoption purposes, as if somebody is enthusiastically already taking Monero and you're trying to reach like a wider audience, okay, you could have at your business, not only we accept Monero, but we need some kind of like authenticated, certified, like here's a sticker you can put on your thing and like a number that you can look up that this actually belongs to you. And that sticker, that guide of whatever version it is, will show that when they accept a certain amount of either version of money, that certain amount, then there's like a minimum threshold, is making it to open source development for the Monero project or a related project. And it's not built up and then given out. It's just an ongoing stream. So, or I guess it would be built up to like a very low amount, right? So every time it reaches a certain amount of money, but it's very low, it just gets streamed directly to a person who is actively working on the project. And not only would it increase the value proposition versus just CCS by itself, but I think what would be really cool is if you also did that with people who were buying Monero for fiat. So if there was, when people are on and off ramping, and I was thinking about how I, as like a regular old individual, could do this, right? So if I sell gold backs for Monero and I get a certain amount of Monero, then that I can elect or opt to just send a certain amount of that to a known wallet of, such and such development fund. But then you could do the same thing with fiat as well. So if you were to cash out Monero, you could elect to donate a certain percentage of your gains, or just a certain percentage of how much fiat you got just generally. And the reason why I got the honor system idea was because that's actually how it used to be about 150 years ago. How you would demonstrate your wealth and prestige was you would build a library, or you would, dedicate a big chunk of land to be a park. In fact, if you go to older cities, what you'll usually find is there's some park somewhere that was just donated by a wealthy person who was giving back to their community. And that was a way to basically buy prestige, or buy, a sense of dignity and morality, and the community would recognize it. Now, these days, nobody recognizes shit, right? You could donate a park to somebody, to some city somewhere, and nobody's even going to notice. Nobody's even going to care. But I know people from when I was younger who were really, really old, and I would go for walks with them. It was community service. I had a troubled background. but I would go for these walks with like really, really old people, and they would actually walk by these park benches and say, I remember when this trail was built and these guys, they donated this park bench. Like they still remembered who donated a park bench on trail like 70 years ago. Well, at this point, it'd be like 90 years ago or whatever. And so there is actually like a market for basically buying prestige. And the modern public square, as far as like actually fitting the ethos bill, would be open source software, because it's the park that everybody plays in. You know, it's the foundation that wealth is built on. And there needs to be some avenue, some vehicle by which if somebody wants to make a donation and they want to use it to basically, you know, get +3 respect, right? They're gonna we have to find some kind of way to dignify those sorts of things. Now, that said, I want to give an example of somewhere that actually happened in Monero, the soccer stadium. And remember how much money made it to the soccer stadium? It was fucking incredible, wasn't it? Yeah. And to this day, there are all kinds of, you know, notes about who does. I think
about naming. No, soccer stadium is a great example. About naming the next Monero release after the largest donor, if they want to. They want to connect the name with the donation.
It may not even necessarily have to be the largest.
Right? That would be kind of analogous to what you're saying.
Doning. You know, like somebody who did it in like an interesting way could also be a viable candidate. Like they didn't just donate a certain amount of money, but they did it in like a certain, you know, public fashion, or like it brought attention somehow. You know, we also need to reward the attention that it brings to the chain or the developer or whatever. Calling
it full chain membership proofs FCMP was a major, that was just a bag fumble. It should be called Parker's Pro Protocol or something.
Yeah. I'm sure Cake would donate.
Legendary Luke badass code.
Changing the name. Interesting concepts. I like the ideas. I mean, Bitcoin had these same issues, right?
No, they get that vampire money, so they don't.
I know. I was just thinking that. Epstein stepped in and fixed that for. So we need another Epstein to come in and start funding Monero projects. Is what you're saying.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, I don't know how you strike the right balance. Monero's, I mean, it's doing pretty well considering, right? What it really has going for it is essentially these devs are willing to work for nothing, and they're willing to work under these conditions because they're so passionate about the ideas that Monero stands for. That's really what it has going for it. But it would be nice if we could get them money more easily, more reliably, without having to deal with all the friction.
Yeah, and there's two types of devs that, and there's a big difference. One is the ones that are working on Monero itself, and then there's the app layer. And the app layer is probably where we need more than anything else. I think a lot of what's needed for Monero at the network level is already in place. But at the app layer, all kinds of things could be done that haven't been done yet. And
that should be handled by just the free market capitalism, right? People want to go build an app, build a product. They just have to figure out how to monetize it. And that's what, reimburses them for their efforts.
I kind of agree with Mojo on this one, actually.
Thank you.
I'm not saying that you're wrong, Doug, for sure. Like, a lion's share of apps, like, look, you gotta find your own value proposition. But here's the thing, I can kind of make the case that that's already not the case. Where would we be as a culture right now, as a Monero culture, if not for Paul and Vic? You see what I'm saying? Like, we would probably, like, let's be honest, bro, we'd probably already be fucked, right? Like, it's
right, but they were incentivized by capitalistic pursuits to put in all these efforts, create these
sort of, but they're also geniuses at making literally anything make money. You know what I'm saying? Like they
Yeah.
started with a giant pile of money and an amazing business sense.
Mhm.
Like you very rarely get both, right?
Yeah. Speaking of which, there's an the CCS right now for Monero wallet, and it's probably the most innovative new wallet newcomer to come to the scene in a long time. And they've put out some features. They were the first one to put out the sidecar thing that Sidekick that later came out. They came out with it before Cupcake. Before that, they were the first ones to implement, and they did it open source for other people to copy. So I mean, they're seeking funds to do more featuring. So right now is a great time to go in there and show some support.
Good point.
You know, this could just be that the devs aren't asking for enough money. Like seriously, when a dev asks for money, they might just not be asking for enough.
Mojo, can you redrop the name of the wallet you just mentioned?
I was about to say the same thing. No, the CCS proposal specifically. Should I just search Monero?
Yes, yeah. It's ANONERO and .io for the website, which links to a Tor website. So you actually have to look it up with the Tor browser.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely talked about Monero on the show before. But yeah, it'd be nice to see. So they've had an outstanding CCS that just hasn't get funded for a while. What are they looking to do? What improvements are they looking to make?
They put it up there. I don't want to. I'm speaking out of hand. I don't want to. But they have some. But they're good improvements, and they were previously already implementing things. That what I really like about it, and where they've carved out a niche, I think, is that they have a really good privacy by default setting, and it might be overkill for some users. But if you don't want to really think about it, or it's an in-app exchange that might leak your data, or some kind of feature that might leak your data, it has a pretty good setup for someone that wants a mobile wallet that is focused just on being very private and pretty much foolproof. You can't really mess it up. You have to find another wallet if you want to do that.
How's their random number generator?
They're actually based on Monero. So
okay,
they're rolling D20s, bro. Like they're that's a lot of entropy.
Yeah, my favorite wallet is Monfluo. That's the one I've been using.
Guys, I just want to chime in. Who's No Name? Is that somebody that wants to talk?
I just said something, but I don't have a specific topic. Sorry.
Okay, no worries.
Hello.
Oh, I have something I vibe coded that I can bring up.
Well, let's go ahead and run the special guest segment just because we didn't run it yet today. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh, wait, I'm not snapping well enough.
That was a cool.
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cakewallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cakewallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
All right, our special guest is RemSee again, I think. Or No Name if he wants to.
Let me read this real quick. Cellar Door says, kind of a thought that came to mind, as unlikely as it may be, if this idea is yours, inadvertently provided a safety net aside from your proposed tokenomic differences against some unforeseen FMCP++ issue, at least a chain would be in action. Everyone choosing chains and buying up preferred tokens would make for an interesting situation. And that's very much like the additional life raft concept that he's talking about, that I think there is like a little bit of merit to the idea. I think it might need a little work as far as like how to integrate the two to make sure you're maximizing your benefit. But Cellar Door is pointing out kind of the same thing, which is like, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a backup plan, which for sure. However, I would point out that Justin Berman is pretty neurotic about his, testing and double checking and all of it. Like, most people are not trying as hard as he is to make absolutely mega super sure that we're not going to have any problems with this rollout. I'm kind of a YOLO type of guy myself. So like in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, come on, Berman, let's just put this, let's just see where it goes. Fuck it. If there's losses, there's losses, you know, but not everybody is as retarded as me, right? Not everybody's like just ready to lose it all. Like,
thankfully, please. Jesus. Do not want to go that direction.
Yeah, the marketing wouldn't be great. But on the
we don't want to
flip
move
side,
fast and break things.
there was one thing that I wanted to point out, which is, and I have almost no doubt that this was talked about for when I slept in, and then for two, I've been giving a lot of attention to the children, but I'm pretty sure that somebody was talking about Cold Card by now.
Oh yeah, yes.
And did anyone notice how if Bitcoin wasn't a transparent blockchain, this attack would have been a nothing burger?
Yes, I actually said that. Well, it would have been a lot harder. It wouldn't have been impossible, but it would have been a lot harder.
Yeah.
Well, it's the thing is even if you were like just targeting random wallets or whatever, I mean, what gives these hacks life is first the proposition that if you can identify high value targets, then any amount of effort becomes worth it.
That's true.
And I mean, everybody knows that I'm barely ever on Twitter, but I've been trying to find anybody talking about it and point this out to them and just say like, bros and brodettes, if you did not have a transparent blockchain, this would be nothing. This would never have happened, you know?
We spent the first 30 minutes of the show talking about this.
Yeah, I was out cold, bro. I've had a long week. So
fair enough.
It's currently 9:30 where I'm at right now. So like, just to give you an idea of, yeah, I ain't no East Coaster, right?
Right. But yeah, go listen to the first 30 minutes of the show once it's over, and we discuss this very in depth.
I always do.
So what?
I
did
wonder
vibe
if-
code? Oh,
Yeah, the vibe code thing that the RemSee has.
Yeah. I'm sharing it right now. I think it's just not appearing on the screen. I think someone who runs the StreamYard might have to do it. But it's just a website for a Monero feature tier list. So you can create your own tier list for the Monero features. Yeah, if someone could pull it up, I can demo. There it is. Yeah, so I created, this is just the type of project you can just make in 30 seconds with AI now. But it's just fun. You can drag these in. I have my own kind of list, but I can debate these things. Community could arguably be S tier, though it's a little bit of a sausage fest. So, we got to grow, don't want to get too high and mighty. So that's why I've got it in B tier. But yeah, I just thought this was funny. If anyone has
do you have any updates on your Monero DeFi app?
I didn't really work on it this week. Didn't have the time. I mean, it's it's still in progress. I gotta deploy a new version of it on Gnosis Chain, and I'll keep testing. But if there's any, I'll probably have an update next week, I think. So I'll be able to actually demo it. But yeah, keep working on that. And yeah, it is related to what Mojo was talking about in terms of getting developers more access to Monero, because right now, if you don't have a wrapped token, if you have a wrapped token, there are some that already exist. There's a wrapped token on Ethereum. There's a wrapped token on Solana that are both centralized though. But the idea is once you have a wrapped token, it makes it a lot easier to develop smart contracts, so you can do complex DeFi applications, applications like payroll. That's something even Monerotopia itself could use, because I know Monerotopia pays people out. I assume, Doug, how do you pay people out? Do you just manually do it, or do you have some? Is there a Monero payroll software that exists at all? Is he there?
I might have a little bit of a window into this.
Yeah.
It usually looks like, send me an address and I'll pay you the Monero.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of sus. So yeah, generally people like payroll software gets your payments go out at the exact same time. Everyone receives payments at the exact same time. Yeah. So anyway,
I missed the question.
Oh, the question was, I know Monerotopia pays people but you don't use any kind of. There's not a Monero payroll software you use that auto.
No, I mean we manage it ourselves on spreadsheets.
Yeah, exactly. So it's I think that's an opportunity. Yeah,
yeah, for sure. And also just from like an accounting standpoint, because of capital gains, right? Theoretically, you have Monero coming in, Monero going out.
Right. Yeah. If your business is profitable, it has to pay taxes. Yeah.
Yeah. So software that would automate that. I mean, we use our own spreadsheets and do it. And there are things out there, but nothing great for Monero. Obviously, it'd be beautiful to have something like that, then just see that seamlessly ties into Cakewallet. So you're making your transactions through Cake, and then you can pull that data into this software that would then track all the payments that came in, all the payments that came out, would assess all the capital gains tax, would take the notes that you put on the payments and turn that into kind of notes in your accounting software. That would be an ideal application for us for sure.
Yeah.
I do know for sure that Edge is actually working really, really hard, or at least the last time I looked into it, on integrating a lot of those features directly into their wallet. And I'm pretty positive that that Cakewallet also stands to gain from that work, because Paul's not stingy with his ideas, right?
It would be nice to just see an independent accounting software, that can tie into existing accounting software, like well-known ones, right?
Plugin would be
Monero
amazing.
feature where you could pull data in from Cakewallet or Edge or wherever. That would be ideal. Somebody spin it up, vibe code it. I've been talking about that for years. I was going to try to have somebody do it at one point, but yeah. Never did.
I realize for the regular audience, you've almost certainly heard this many times. And I know that Doug has a very similar story, but it's easy to forget how, when you're doing international commerce, like what happens with Monerotopia, how it's in reverse. So in other words, it's been made so much easier to do international commerce. I've heard at least one story from Doug that's the same as the one I'm about to share. But more than once in my life, I always ask if somebody wants to be paid in Monero. And for the purpose of international commerce, they just could not get dollars. Like either I couldn't get them the dollars, or they couldn't receive the dollars, or whatever the case may be. And they're waiting and waiting and waiting to get paid. And then eventually they decide to take me up on just using Monero. And, I haven't done business with either of those parties since, but I would imagine it has never left the back of their mind how much simpler it was to accept Monero and then in their home country turn it into whatever they wanted. And the thing is if we can cross the hurdles of, the simplifying accounting software and all of that other stuff, there is already so much meat on these bones for the value proposition of Monero. The value proposition is so much already there that in spite of these hurdles, a lot of adoption comes from the ease of use of Monero in other ways, because a lot of people just get so unbelievably frustrated with the current fiat system, or, various forms of how money is currently done, that even with the extra overhead that Monero can sometimes produce, like, having to do things on spreadsheets if you're trying to be like an above board tax paying business, it's still there. The value proposition is already still there. But to close those gaps then makes it economic, in the sense of, how much time do I want to spend on dealing with fiat when I could just deal in Monero in this matter and not have these hurdles?
Yeah, it also relates to what I've seen as the biggest barrier for adoption. When I've tried to find vendors, peer-to-peer, just face-to-face, try to accept the crypto, Monero in particular, or people that have crypto and don't want to spend it, it's usually tax compliance. It's just something that they are afraid. It just seems like it's a big issue that they don't want to have to deal with. If there's something that can automate that or make it manageable, and I think that's definitely possible with this kind of software you're showing up there right now. I mean, previously I was thinking if you could have a transaction stamp the current fiat value that you accepted that transaction at and export a CSV or something, and of your whole transactions, that could be helpful. I don't know, but I think that you're definitely on the right track. That it's solving a real problem there.
So I've run a few restaurants before, and I would just want to add to that like a real life example. If I were to buy, let's say, 100 cucumbers, because I expect to go through that much in like salads or sandwiches or whatever, and then I end up throwing 20 of them away. If I don't have a simple way to assign a value to those 20 cucumbers, well, then that puts me in the situation where how do I write down my losses? How do I claim my losses? And even if they're not saying it, any restaurant owner is thinking about this.
Did he cut up?
I think his child was asking him something.
Oh, okay.
That's what it sounded like anyway. Well, if you bought 20 or if you bought 100 cucumbers, especially if you paid for them directly in Monero, then each cucumber would be worth 1/100th of whatever you paid. That's how you know what the cucumber is worth. So if it was 0.1 Monero for 100 cucumbers, well, then each cucumber is worth 0.1 divided by 100 or whatever that 0.01. Fuck.
Well, calculating the value in Monero is pretty easy. However, it's the question of, has the value of the Monero shifted between the acquisition of the cucumber and the disposal of the cucumber? And what's even more of a hurdle is if the value has shifted in the value of the cucumbers, but then also at what point you're claiming it. So is it at the time you threw away the cucumbers that you are now writing down the loss, or is it at the end of tax season? Or you see, a lot of these people, they don't have an answer. And if you do the same thing with fiat, I mean, it's very easy to just, type into some account, whether it be the accounting software itself or a search engine or whatever. The moment in which you take your losses is X. The way that you appraise it is X. But if you do the same thing for crypto, any crypto, you have a different problem entirely, unless you first convert it to fiat. And now you've undermined Shortwave's whole campaign, right? Of like, well, one Monero is one Monero. Well, if you go to the government and you were to say, hey, 1/20th of my Monero was lost at this point in time, so I would like to claim this many losses, then the next question is, are you claiming the loss at the end of the year? Are you claiming the loss at the point in which you threw the cucumbers away? Are you claiming the loss at the same time as when you bought them? Now, as far as I understand, because I've actually tried to figure this out, the loss would be calculated at the same point in time in which you bought them, which is kind of surprising. However, at the moment in which you bought them, it is still a loss that has been realized because you parted with something of value at that point in time that never turned into anything of value. But it represents a hurdle for business adoption that could be fixed with software, which could be fixed with funds for developers. I mean, look at RemSee over there. Man's fucking starving. Okay, like, where is the money flowing to the man who is working on wrapped crypto? That's what I want to know. Like, post a wallet, RemSee. I'm ready right now. Let's
do retroactive. So usually people like to see things done first, and then you can get paid. Unfortunately.
But are there some ways to support your cause?
I actually need to add a donation address. I should do that. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I need to add a donation address now that you bring that up. Yeah, and no one's ever asked me that before, so I'm glad I was able to instill some confidence in my my abilities into you. And yeah, eventually, yeah, I mean, one user is more valuable to me than really any money, I would say. But yeah, I should have a donation address for sure. I can do that right now.
Do it.
Ready and waiting.
Just another thought too, because we're talking about software that can track. If you're using Monero in a business sense, where you're out there as a proper business, right, and you have to keep track of these things. But this idea of capital gains, right? One of the things I spoke to Bruce Blakeman about was potentially eliminating capital gains for crypto transactions here in New York on a state level. Obviously, you would still have to pay on a federal level, theoretically, right? If you're doing all these things on the up and up, depending on what you're doing out there. But if you're trying to run a proper business and you're out there in the open, you're like, hey, I'm here, and I accept. You're probably going to want to follow the rules to some degree. And wouldn't it be nice if just capital gains didn't exist, right? That's the most ideal. So I don't know, maybe we see that on the federal level at some point. There was always talk of it, with Trump and whatnot. And I don't know when that day is going to come. But
yeah, it's been so full of like just misdirection and like, yeah.
It would be nice to see it on the state level. Now, amazing to see that happen in New York State. That would be incredible. Like, it'd be hard to imagine, right? You would think that'd be one of the last places where capital gains would be eliminated for crypto purposes. But if you get somebody like Bruce Blakeman in office, it's possible, guys. When I brought up the point, he was not opposed. I'll put it that way. It's like, well, how do we make it happen? So just another thought there.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even use Kraken or Change now, I think, in New York City. So I guess you'd have to be using Coinbase, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, Coinbase.
So yeah, you wouldn't even be able to go directly from Monero into anything. You'd go into some whatever. I know people use Litecoin. I think if I were doing it, I would use Ethereum. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know Kraken may be delisting Monero at some point, but
yeah, I mean, I've seen this. Yeah, I actually am a Kraken user. I haven't gotten that email myself because I haven't, at least recently, withdrawn or deposited Monero. I've only like traded it on Kraken recently, but I haven't gotten that email. There was, Xenu, who's reasonably regarded in the community. I don't think he would have just made it up. And then, I also have seen that in like the Telegram, someone seemingly got that email from Kraken. So, they probably sent out at least a few hundred of those emails.
Yeah, I mean, my thinking here is still be fantastic to get the bit license eliminated in here in New York. Try to get capital gains on crypto eliminated, and have an administration that sees crypto as equivalent to cash. So trying to convince him of that concept as well. And he understands cash. He understands the value of cash, the utility of cash. He made it a point that he likes to use cash. And this realization that cash is going away. It's going away on a global level, and it's certainly going away within the United States. And so we'll need something to replace that. And so I think that's a good thing to focus on. Get some of these politicians understanding, if they're for freedom, they're for liberty, whatever it may be. And you could be on the left or the right, right? You want this idea that you think that everybody deserves free and open and permissionless access to a cash-like utility. Maybe you're on the left, right? And you think the illegal immigrants that come to this country need to have access to cash, because if we get rid of cash, there's no way for them to earn money and spend money because they can't get a bank account. Okay, well, cash is going away. So we need something like a Monero in its place. And we need to then treat it like cash. We can't assess capital gains on the use of it. We can't apply different rules to using it as opposed to just using cash. So it's an argument that can be made on the left and on the right. This idea, let's unify around the need for cash. And if they want to get rid of cash for other reasons, it spreads germs, whatever bullshit reason they're going to make, we then need a digital version.
Well, if you're on the left, they're not illegal immigrants. They're just immigrants.
Yeah, I guess if you're that far left.
Yeah, I can't really stand for the culture of politicizing everything and everything being a left or right thing. Especially, it's not even like consistent. Like anti-vaxxing used to be like a far left thing, and now it's the right thing. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, now it's like far left to be, well, whatever. I won't even get into it. We're all observing the same crazy. We're all observing the same craziness.
The boot is stomping on at that particular time. Okay, so whichever boot is stomping on you, you're the other guy. You see what I'm saying? Like it's surprisingly consistent if you think about it. It's just you have to look at it from the perspective of the boot on your face, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm an extremist if I'm opposed to you. That's the pattern, right?
Yeah, I would not focus on relying on government. Everyone should take more accountability for himself and do the best he can in his local area.
Yeah.
I'm about as like no hopium for me as you can possibly get, but Doug's whole position on, if nothing else, at least it like gums up the gears for a minute, you know? It's starting to grow on me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, what makes sense is that I'm actually can achieve it, right? It's not just like some pie in the sky thing where I'm saying, community, let's focus on this and everybody give me $1 million so I can get it done. There's a pathway to get it done as soon as November. So I'm gonna give it a shot. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But
I can't sit across from a bureaucrat and not get just tilted. Like even if they're a good bureaucrat, right? I just, as soon as they start, and then we can fiddle with the tax code, I just like start slamming tables, burn it all to the ground.
That's funny actually, because
Doug's very diplomatic though in comparison, so I think he might actually get some stuff done. I mean, you think about it, there's a lot of
totally pull it off. I can't, but you totally could. You could be somebody's friend for sure, you know.
Yeah, see, Douglas is one of the most like people that I know of in the Monero community that can actually do this. The most people I see in the Monero community are just like me in Alaska, burn it all down.
Yeah, you can only ignore the government to an extent. You can't. It's hard to fully drop off the grid. If you can have some kind of influence, I mean, Doug actually sat down and talked with the guy, so that's a completely different level than just yelling things on Twitter.
Yeah, I totally agree. The government has a lot of leverage. That's for sure.
And you got to think about all the businesses that you might have come across that say that we only accept cash or it because of the additional cost of doing cards, or they'll give you an extra charge if you want to use a card, and they prefer cash, or just forget it all and say just cash only. That small little percentage margin is enough to make a difference. So when he's talking about tax making a difference, that might open the doors for businesses to start saying, yeah, okay, that's less, then I'll do it.
The other thing is if we get to a certain point of adoption, like kind of going along with that badge thing, if you had a pledge where it's like, like let's say up to $3,000 a month or whatever, I will convert Monero to fiat for said business. So in other words, I will off ramp a such and such business to the tune of X amount of money. And if that would be another really interesting one where it does two things. It takes the exchanges further out of the equation, and then it also provides a certain blanket of security to the business owner, where if they knew, like clockwork, a certain person was going to come by and offer to offload a certain amount of Monero at the end of every month. You see what I'm saying? Like that's another avenue that we could possibly use And so like, how do you get it started? Well, I have an idea. What if I mean, I don't know how legal this particular one is, but what if something like the CCS, if you could donate just regular fiat to the CCS, and then the CCS would purchase Monero at a 1-to-1 for the purpose of donating it to developers or whatever. Because I don't know that would technically make it an exchange, because if it's like I wanted to donate to the CCS and I donated fiat, well, they don't deal in cash. So they're going to liquidate that cash for Monero, because that's what they do, is they donate Monero, not cash. I'd have to look into like how legal that is, but that might be another really interesting avenue where it's like you could set it and forget it to like, I'm going to give, $20 a month or whatever to the CCS. And every time they got that payment, they would immediately try to acquire Monero. But instead of buying it off of an exchange or even a decentralized exchange, wouldn't it be cool if they were like, okay, any Monero accepting business that wants to dip out for cash, we offer that, but it has to be a 1-to-1 and you have to have accepted it in your regular course of business.
That actually makes a lot of sense, because Monero doesn't really support subscriptions very well right now. It's manual. So yeah, if you could just set and forget whatever amount you wanted to donate as monthly, like, Wikipedia does that, like monthly donations. Yeah, so that'd actually be a pretty good idea.
Another cool one. I mean, I've got a lot of these. I have no idea how effective they would be, but I appreciate the fact that you guys will humor my my retard rants. But I think it would also be cool if you could mentor junior developers. So in other words, like you offer some kind of path for a junior developer that has shown a certain level of skill, where it's a senior developer could get paid to mentor a junior developer. And at the completion of that code, not only does the senior developer get like a little bonus, but then the junior developer gets a cut of the finished proposal. And for one, it grows the body of eyes on the project. For two, it increases the total pool of talent. And then for three, you're setting up somebody who has joined as a Monero enthusiast for a career in development at a time where that can be kind of nasty.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of like how a job works. Like if you have, I mean, Cakewallet is a Monero company. They have junior developers and senior developers. So yeah, you just reinvented a job from first principles, kind of.
But like applying it to something like the CCS, like applying it to where there's like an actual financial incentive for them to do so. Because with a company, it's easier to do, right? But with something that's like donation based, like a CCS, every dollar matters. Well, in this case, every Monero matters even more than a dollar. But the thing is if there was a specific, and I'll tell you right now, that's something that I would be very interested in donating to, where it's like, if you're willing to mentor somebody who otherwise might not get into this, well, here's like an extra sum set aside for the senior developer to pass knowledge along and pass skills and talents along, but also a way where somebody who wants to get into this can start making some money instead of just making a bunch of stupid apps hoping that they, strike gold or whatever. They can actually get onto a real project and look at what a more talented person is doing as opposed to what they're doing and make those changes.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough when you start getting into like, there ends up being like politics and how people get paid and stuff is like, you almost start to get like a level of work like that slows down the development. If you have yeah, I mean, it's definitely been an idea that's been around of like sort of the DAO is like a decentralized autonomous organization is this idea, but most of them end up being like basically just centralized companies. Yeah, I mean, it's something people like conceived of, like people saw subreddits. I don't know. I think Reddit is less effective than it used to be, but like, I don't know, like the late 2010s, I feel like subreddits were like really coordinated, like, and you're like, okay, I can see how this kind of structure could actually be sort of like a company and like be able to pay people and people could openly contribute. Nobody's figured out the governance model, how to make sure people are actually getting paid what they're supposed to, how to organize it. It doesn't mean that it's impossible, but just coordinating humans at scale is just the problem nobody's really solved except for just the massive scale of governments, essentially.
Well, I agree with Ray Youssef on this one, and I might even take it a step further. We're fighting our own biology when we don't acknowledge the fact that humans congregate around leaders. And the idea that you can prop up a robot to do that, or the idea that you can vote your way to prosperity, voting 9 times out of 9 has always led to people voting to steal from other people. But a strong leader, they have such an eye for fairness that it kind of like tamps down people's greedy impulses as well as focuses a project. I think that the decentralization movement, I'm totally with Ray Youssef on this one, has overstepped the boundaries in which it can be effective, because leadership has always been a very, very valuable asset. And by trying to eliminate leadership altogether, what you're doing is you're leaving the best talent off the table. And we need to find a way to harness the value and the power of a good leader, but also marry that with the checks and balances of decentralization. And
that's a really good point. Yeah.
The board of directors model was one of the most effective ways that's ever been done, until people kind of finally eventually cracked a way to fuck with that, right? But that it might be buried somewhere in there, how the board of directors model was so effective.
It's a really good point. Leadership is really important. You've seen like Ethereum has Vitalik as the leader, and like he's a good leader because he's just like, everyone thinks he's smart, and he just continues to be the leader. He just shows up every day. But yeah, any company, generally you want to have, it's like that. There's in The Office, like the sitcom, they like have 2 co-managers, and like then the person who comes in from corporate, and it's like, what do you mean there's 2 managers in this office? Like there can't be 2 managers in the office. And yeah, it's true. You kind of need to have this like leadership position. So yeah, you can have that in development. You can have someone who like leads a dev shop, and it can be a small team of 3 or 4 people. So yeah, that is scalable, but to what extent do you want to give power to these leaders versus having the crowd be as powerful as possible, kind of contested.
Well, that's what what's that company, CipherTrace or whatever? CipherStack, yeah, CipherStack they're doing, because he's going to the CCS and getting money, and he's saying, hey, this is what we are doing right now. You give us, if the community gives us this amount of money, this is what we're going to continue to do, but our developers are just going to work. Like, they don't have to have that, they don't have to deal with that oversight or whatever. Like, he deals with that stuff.
Yes, CipherStack is a good example. Yeah, I think concentrating the talent is one of the hard parts. Is with remote work, people working remotely, like you need everyone to be actually bought in. You can't really, it's tough to not have anyone. If you're still under a company, like you can have like laggers, but if it's still kind of like supposed to be like open source, you can't really have any weak links there. But yeah, CipherStack's a good example of like a small firm who's able to contribute in a great way to Monero.
Like when they come and ask for 200 Monero or 1,000 Monero or whatever, the community just funds it because they know that the work's going to get done. They don't have to, like, they know that person is going to oversee that work and it's going to get done.
Mojo asked, how many would-be Monero devs are out there because they aren't contributing because they're not independently wealthy? Hard to say. They're anonymous, so I have no idea. I would say I don't think that at least from my perspective, I wouldn't say finance is probably the main moat. I mean, there's just knowledge and people. I think most people. I talk to a lot of developers. I think a lot of people have like heard of it, but never like had the idea to work on it. So even just like talking about Monero, the fact that I'm building a Monero project at all, like people are like, oh, I haven't heard about Monero in a while, or like, you know, you break something in their brain. They have like some people, if the government doesn't like something, they'll just like create a wall in their brain, and you kind of like can break through that wall for a second. But ultimately it's people have their different motivations, and yes, especially just getting the word out there for trying to break through people's like, oh, I can't work on Monero just because it's like banned or whatever. It's just interesting. A lot of people, one thing I like about the Monero community is a lot of people are independently minded and come to the conclusions on their own, based on their own thought analysis. But I think the majority of people make their beliefs based on what they believe the consensus to be, rather than their own beliefs. So yeah, it's just something you have to deal with as far as humanity.
That actually ties back into the leader thing, which is the leader has enough charisma, they can break through the appeal to majority fallacy without using logic. Because we have to acknowledge the unfortunate reality that logic is not something that is studied or, looked to in the ignorant masses, as you might call them. But a strong leader can often package and make digestible an argument in favor of doing the right thing.
Another thing I'll say as far as this kind of governance thing is the public blockchains actually provide a great utility for governance, in that they're perfectly auditable. Anyone can look at them, and they can provide like decentralized voting mechanisms. And it's like the opposite of Monero. Like Monero is like basically fully centralized, and you can't see anything. The thing is the government should be using these public blockchains, because why would the government not want to be putting everything where it's publicly auditable? They should want that if they really work for us. But
there's your problem right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Corruption is very common in the world, sadly.
I don't actually think that's the case, though.
Standard.
My argument to the fact that would do nothing is the amount of corruption that's just totally in your face already. I mean, Trump and Melania coin, all of that data is publicly available and easy to vet, and you can even look at their taxes and all of that other stuff. And the thing is, like, it's literally a pay-for-play scam, and it's as illegal as it gets, right? But nobody's going to prosecute him. Nobody cares. Nobody's doing anything about it. And that's the thing, is whether or not it's transparent isn't going to change a damn thing. I mean, at this point, there are people who are known to have participated in all of this Epstein stuff that are still holding positions of power, have not been held to any kind of level of accountability. Adding another layer of transparency is just going to give a bunch of journalists the power to go through even more records for people to do even more nothing. Like, nothing's going to happen, even if it is even more transparent.
I think the mistake that even going there is that there should be government at all.
Hear, hear.
Completely agree.
Yeah, but then you have the problem that potentially some criminals or jihadis or whatever could come around and try to break your small community.
If there's no government, then that's a market problem with market solutions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
for example,
would you
there's
like it?
one product called the 308 that solves many of those problems at the very point of inception. You don't have to wait for a phone call to go through, nothing. It's by my calculations, you can solve a lot of these problems in seconds. So
Yeah, but I mean, look at the way the government tends to solve problems compared to how technology can sometimes make much better solutions. Like, for instance, let's say I own a shop in some place in a country where I need to have bars in front of my windows as I'm serving customers so that I can avoid attacks, other things like that, other physical deterrents. What can the government do if there's crime? I'm getting robbed every time that I'm walking home from my store back to home every single day. The government, they could add more cops, do more policing, start it cause all kinds of problems that way, and probably more harm than good in a lot of cases. Or you could say, well, I'm accepting Monero, and when I do that, people send it. I could see I get exceptions on my View wallet, which can't get stolen from. So even if someone comes to me and they know that I've been accepting Monero all day, they can come say, okay, well, all you see is today's View wallet. You don't see really how much I have. You don't have access to my funds. And if you were going to rob me somewhere else, maybe that'd be a whole other thing. But now, at least it removes the state from over policing some community with questionable effects.
I would have to say, and push back a little bit on the abolishment of the government. I would say an accountable government is still better. I mean, if you have cops that are have their body cams on, that's better than cops that don't have body cams on. I would prefer to have accountability for where the funds go, even if they publicly go to places I don't agree with. That's better than just having to trust Elon Musk as he goes through the government's books instead of being able to see stuff myself. I would also say, at least in the United States, we have like the federalization system. So I trust my local and state government a lot more than the federal government. Even though the federal government's the one I'm giving the most money to, I get the least from them. I really only have a specific beef with the federal government, more so than the local government that provides cops and schools.
You don't give anything to the government; they only rob you. Like if you like voluntarily donated to them, or like they actually had a business or something, and you paid for that service. But
well, that's the problem when government is too far away. Like, if you must have a government, it needs to be close by, because as the government gets farther away from the person who's being governed, then they can't take that out on the person. So the local government is more accountable to you than the state government is. The state government is more accountable to you than the federal government is. And the federal government isn't accountable to anybody, and the WEF is above the federal governments.
Yeah, that's the funniest thing is that you go to Washington, D.C., you're like, oh, surely they have representation here, and all the plates say taxation without representation, because D.C. doesn't get representation in the city, like in the government, that where the city exists just to serve that government and like exists for that government. Like, the people who live in the city don't get to participate in that government. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, the U.S. did have a turning point. I do agree with the fact that if the government's closer to you, it's obviously much better than as it gets further and further away. As a general principle, but in particular, the U.S. had a turning point when it started allowing corporations to be considered legally people and to donate towards campaigns. Now you have a positive feedback loop where the corporations they're a legal entity that is only motive is profit at the expense of everything else, any moral good. And those are the entities that are requisite to win an election at a federal level. If you don't have that, there are some people say that they're raising funds other ways. It's really tricky though. Typically, someone's made compromises somewhere at a federal level, and if they haven't, they probably don't have enough political alliances to actually get things done. And that itself it's kind of like we're kind of screwed there.
It's something you can't look at as the United States federal government's been around for 250 years or so. But you can say, okay, if we look at the 20th century, we got some good things out of the centralization of the federal government, maybe like the Hoover Dam and the moon landings. But since then, a lot of people point to the gold standard in 1971 going away. But yeah, the power has become more and more unchecked, and we continue to get less. We don't get anything like at the scale of the Hoover Dam or the moon landing anymore, even though we're still paying a lot.
To comment on Mojo's question, how many Monero devs are there that aren't contributing because they're not independently wealthy? Yeah, I would say it's completely true. If you have less spare time, you can help less, but then it comes down to commitment. And yeah, I think the people should commit themselves to something good and try to take action.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I think we want to maximize the number of profitable business that are hiring developers, right? Even if you are independently wealthy, you still want to have income as opposed to doing things for free. So yeah, if we can, that's the way you should just use your Monero. You know, some people want to hold it, but if you use Monero, you support Monero businesses, which in turn supports Monero developers.
Yeah, and that's something we already do better than Bitcoin, is that people in Monero are actually willing to use it. I pay for my bills as much as I can in Monero, and then I just buy more. Like, that's what happens all the time. I use and I replace. I use and I replace. I use and I replace. And I think a lot of Monero people do the same thing.
Your meals, like groceries?
Yes. I use it. I do it through gift cards, but yes, I do buy my groceries with Monero.
Does the grocery store company have gift cards? How does that work?
No, I'm using Instacart for that. So
Instacart has, okay, so Instacart has gift cards you can buy on like CakePay or something, and
correct.
Okay,
I use a company called Coinsbee, Coinsbee.
Oh yeah, I've used them. Yeah, I think I've used them.
And so I buy an Instacart gift card with Coinsbee. I pay for it with Monero, and then I go enter the code on Instacart, and I buy my groceries every single month. I've been doing that for over 3 years now.
Cool. Yeah, I would look into CakePay. I think it might be cheaper. I don't know what fees you're paying on Coinsbee, but
I think you're probably right. I think it might be cheaper.
Yeah,
but I do my best to support businesses that take Monero directly as well. So I switched to Cloak Wireless recently, and the reason I did that is because they have a BTC Pay server set up, and they take Monero directly. So I've been paying my phone bill now with Monero directly. I don't have to go through a gift card or nothing.
But you have to, with a phone bill, you'd have to pay it manually every month.
Yes, I do. I could pay it multiple months at a time.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's good. They have like maybe like a yearly subscription or something, but yeah, or like I guess you could probably set a balance there.
Yeah, you can just set you can just set a balance or whatever and pay it that way.
Yeah, it's still annoying. That is a problem the Monero community should solve, because a lot of digital payments are done through recurring payments.
Isn't there a wallet that does that, or you send like a certain amount of Monero to it, and you say this month I have this many bills or whatever, and it's supposed to come out on this date, and it just does it,
like
just
a budget?
automatically signs
Yeah.
it. I think there is one
Probably
like
is.
that.
I mean, yeah, it's just,
I had brought up on a different Monero talk the idea that this is an area where I think a layer 2 solution has a lot of merit, a lot of value proposition. And it's not the only thing that I've pointed out. A layer 2 would make a lot of sense. Another good example is if there was a layer 2 solution that would allow kind of the way that Lightning allows, where you can basically preload a certain amount of money, and then your use of, let's say it's like 0.3 zeros and then 1 Monero per, X number of bits that you're using of such and such service. There's a pretty strong value proposition there, where especially when the risk of, large scale theft is very, very low. That's but what we just mentioned is another one, recurring payments. Rather than trying to tweak the underlying blockchain, either what RemSee is doing now, the idea of wrapped tokens and smart contracts could work. But personally, I think something super simple, like a properly functioning L2 that is designed around even lower cost overhead and even faster transactions with no confirmations, Yes, I realize that you lose a lot of security without the confirmation system that Monero has. However, there are so many use cases in which that's not a concern for you. So a really good example is, like we were just talking about, recurring payments. If you're doing business with a trusted authority, you know, a Cloaked Wireless is a perfect example. You have a very low risk of them running away with your money, a very, very low risk. And a lot of it is already in the public domain, right? Like there are laws about having a phone number and it being tied to your identity. Somebody's not trying to skirt around those laws anyway. The idea of having a layer 2 that offers a recurring payment solution, so I can make a deposit onto the layer 2, wait for my confirmations into the layer 2, and now I have a no confirmation mechanism for payment. This is another situation where, rather than messing with the underlying blockchain, I personally think it's a great place for a Monero layer 2.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the difference between a layer 2 and a side chain is. But yeah, whichever word you want to use, layer 2 or side chain, yeah, I think the one will eventually exist for Monero. But yeah, it's just a matter of when. Yeah.
Yeah, but one thing that, sorry, at a technical level, I don't think it's actually what you're describing is a side chain or a layer 2 per se. It could just be an app layer kind of thing where it's scheduled a scripting of the Monero CLI, or even use of the Monero MCP that allows you to get hook-ins with local AI systems that are running on your computer, if you could trust that.
I've actually heard several variations of, you know, implementing my proposal that I'm throwing out here, and I'm just like kind of loosely calling it a layer 2. But that actually might be the easiest, fastest way I have heard yet to get something like this going. And that should probably be your project, homie. Like we need, like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be like a full-blown layer 2. It's just something that's reliable and trustworthy, where when you have such a low risk and you don't need all of the security for, you know, recurring payments, is a problem that could be solved if somebody just solved that problem the way that you're describing right now.
Well,
and can I shortly comment? Shortwave Surfer, you just said there is a wallet which does this, but it requires the client to be online. But if you have wrapped Monero on an EVM chain, you can just deposit into a smart contract. And yeah, as long it has no admin keys and it is immutable, so it can't be updated. Yeah, the funds are secure and good flow as long as you have money deposited. So I think it's a very good solution RemSee is working on.
Oh, absolutely. Another thing is that there's things called prepaid, like Cloaked Wireless. My bill cost me 77 Monero, right? So I could just pay 77 Monero times 3, 77, whatever that times 3 is, and just give that to them. And now I've got 3 months of service. Like, prepaid is a layer 2, basically.
And, yeah, that's how I do it. I with gift cards for, because Airbnb and Amazon, I usually have a balance with them. I buy gift cards with Monero on those things, and yeah, that kind of functions as a mini little layer 2 there. So I have a balance on Airbnb and Amazon.
And Cloaked Wireless isn't going to run away with my money as
neither is Amazon or Airbnb.
Exactly. Like
I have actually talked to someone before. He put like he bought like a ton of gift cards. Like we're talking over 10K worth of gift cards, because he was using Airbnb essentially as his rent. Like he would just, as his landlord, like he would just go rent Airbnb. And I think he redeemed too many gift cards, and Airbnb probably has a limit of like 10K of gift cards where they don't want you to have a balance. But yeah, that is something I would watch out for. But yeah, it is still something you can do.
There's also debit cards you can top up with Monero.
Yeah, it's hard. I was actually looking at some of those. Like on Amazon, you can buy prepaid cards, but it's only like $200 and there's a $5 fee. I'm not sure. People debate what the best. I think there's a lot of different services as far as like prepaid cards and stuff. I don't know what the best one is right now, but I kind of need to get a new one.
one thing that I'd point out too about what you guys are discussing is to the normie, the minute you start telling them how it works, right? And I'm sure almost everybody in this already knows, but I'm mostly considered in, you know, any listening audience out there, it's usually best to, you know, eliminate a lot of the terms that are being used in this discussion. I mean, they're appropriate for this discussion, don't get me wrong, but telling people how it works under the hood, you'll lose them. But if you were to basically say, you know, you forfeit some of the security that exists on the Monero blockchain because the risk is so low, and you're basically prepaying for stuff and then using that prepay mechanism to do your business.
Yeah, like prepaid is.
If we describe it like that, then it's just going to check out with people, where it's like, yeah, it's kind of like the way a bank works, where they have additional layers of security because they're handling the funds. But then when you go to actually use your credit card or your debit card or whatever it is, you're forfeiting a little bit of the security of the money that's in your bank in order to accomplish your goal. And this is how we're doing it. You know, if you say it like that, all of a sudden people are gonna be like, this is great. Shut up and take my money.
Yeah, and see, prepaid is something that people understand. Like, you have prepaid cell phone service. You have, like, prepaid is something that everybody already gets.
The one thing I will say is it's a little bit dangerous, like, in terms of, because, okay, so when Monero went to like 800, I was buying like a lot of gift cards. And then once I had those balances, I was like, oh, this is free money. Like, I didn't really care how I spent it. So I didn't spend that money the best way. But yeah, it's just something you should watch out for personal finance reasons.
I've never done it because I'm, you know, it's my Monero, right? Like, it's kind of like a personal thing. But I was thinking exactly that when Monero was knocking on the door to 800. Like, I wonder how many whales are gonna just start buying the crap out of stuff. It's like, and of course it was RemSee, right? Of course he's gonna be the guy that breaks the gift card system at some point. Just, I have $4 million in gift cards.
Well, that's the problem with people, like with those companies wanting to denominate their value in in dollars. So the Monero went up, so you bought $5,000 worth of Instacart gift cards. Well, now you've got groceries for 5 years or 3 years or 2 years or whatever.
I'm not surprised that Shortwave is already waiting in the wings to be like, I told you so about your money denomination with these coming. Like, you're just waiting at their doorstep to come home, hands in their head or head in their hands. Like, I just lost so much money. No, sir, you don't understand. If you would have just denominated this correctly.
Like, any Monero business that denominates their prices in Monero wouldn't have lost a single pico during that time. Any business that denominated their value in fiat would have lost out big time when Monero rose like that.
Is Free Nero gonna give us some context to that good time that is going on in the background?
He hops on the show every so often. He's always playing an event. I don't know how. Looks like
you just know that guy's just living his best life, bro. Every time, like, just having a blast wherever he's at.
So that looks like the dream right there, dude.
Speaking of dream, it's absolutely gorgeous here in Monero land.
Heck yeah.
I mean, Man Mecca. I mean, Alaska. And I'm getting the itch, bros. I'm looking out the window. It's gorgeous. I think it might be time.
So peace out, man.
All right, peace.
God bless you all.
Sir, we can end the show.
Nice to be
right
with
here.
you.
Yeah. Let's end it.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, Twitch, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to follow us on X or join us in the Monerotopia Telegram group. See you all next week.